Happy and
Here I am. Hey everybody, it's me, Matt Vader, 74, and everybody's laughing at me behind the scenes because I am not Matthew Kadish. Just be forewarned. This live stream is going to be a complete and total cluster. Okay, I'm just telling you right now.
Are we live yet?
Yes, you're live. Shut up, Steven. I'm just letting you know right now ahead of time. This show is going to be crazy. Matthew Kadish, our normal full-time host, is on a well-deserved vacation, and now the monkeys are in charge of the zoo. Okay, so that's what's going on. We got a pretty fun show ahead for you guys, and I want to bring on our panel. But first, I want to let everybody know that Alex, our original salty nerd and host of the show, is joining us for the first time. I'm going to let him take control of the directing duties, and I'm going to be working more as a Jamie type from Joe Rogan. I'm going to be doing the behind the scenes stuff, and it's going to be terrible. So welcome everybody. How are we doing? We got
What's
Odin.
up, buddy?
Odin, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing great. Glad to be back. Been sad to have missed, several episodes over the last month, but we're back and ready to talk about some fun stuff.
Culture Casino is here. The guy who's always willing to come on.
Hey,
he's on. Which multiverse version of this are we getting of you today? Because I know you're on probably 12 other live streams somewhere else right now.
Yeah, no, I'm right now. This is World 132. So that's where we're at right at the moment.
Okay, that's good. Joining us for the first time this week, Fat Steven. Welcome, sir. How are we?
I'm good. Are we live yet?
Yes, we're live. I think. I hope.
I just want to make sure.
I hope so.
Sure. Thank you for having me. And Odin, I love your pineapple video. It's great. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I appreciate that.
And Culture's a clone. That's all I'm going to say. He's a replicant.
All right, Brian. We're not going to make you be our diversity shield today. You can.
I don't have to be the non-diverse.
It's over.
You don't have to do
over.
You don't have to do it today. We're in July. You're good.
Thank God.
Everything's fine.
We're in July. I no longer have to be the shield. I've taken so many in the back.
No.
That was a pun.
Nice to see you. And now, Alex, it's all you, buddy. Welcome, welcome to Saturday morning.
Thank you.
You don't have to have stream envy anymore.
I know. It's funny because I feel like this is probably one of our most popular shows on the channel, and I'm rarely, if ever, involved. I think this might be the first time I've ever been on, and people are like, "Who's the freaking new guy?" I'm like, "I'm the guy who started this whole thing." But yes, I am always very envious of your amazing Saturday live shows. We have almost 70 people watching already. Thank you all for being here. Let me just real quick address the chat. We have a super chat already from Bob Dorsey for $50. I know y'all get there. If Kirk was born in space, how the hell does he know how to drive a car, GTA style? We're gonna save that comment because we're gonna talk about Star Trek in just a little bit, and we're gonna save that.
I have an answer for you.
Yeah, we'll have an answer for sure. But welcome, Anthony Marcus here. We've got Concho Dragon. Hey, Vader, do you recognize most of these people? Can you say hi to them if they're regulars?
Yeah, these are most of our regulars. It's nice to see this guy's Penny. Penny is always here. Penny is like culture. She's like everywhere.
Penny's everywhere.
It's crazy. Some person named Popcast Unleashed. I need to give you a wrench.
Yeah, why am I not a wrench?
I have no idea. Keely Chow, Coach of Dragon, Anthony Mark, of course, is here. Some dude named Mutant Bam Hammer. That's a cool name. I like that one.
Boyos, all my boyos. That's what Mutant Bam Hammer normally says.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, some guy named Fat Steven for $2. Hey man, thank you.
Are we live yet? Is there? Do people understand the context of that joke?
Not yet.
Yeah.
It's Canadian money. It's not
I
real.
literally went through the entire countdown and the intro off the air, and I thought I was live. It was, and they were all making fun of me behind the scenes. It was
a good time.
It was
I was
really
dancing. I wasted my entire dance routine in the background.
It reminded me of the time Culture spoke for 15 minutes, muted before he realized he was muted on a 6-minute daily. That was priceless as well.
It was terrible.
All right, but without further ado, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here on Saturday's show. Our first topic for today is the casting of Henry Cavill Light and Lois Lane. We've got Superman Legacy. James Gunn's Superman Legacy movie has its two heroes. We've got David Cornsweet. Cornsweet? Is that how you say it?
That is the best name ever.
Cornsweet. And
Sweat.
Rachel Brosnan as Clark Kent.
Brosnahan.
Brosnahan?
Yeah, she's the niece of Kate Spade, the handbag creator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we have our Clark Kent and Lois Lane. I would love to get some thoughts on this. I'm going to start with the man himself, Matt Vader. What's your thoughts on the casting of these characters? And
you're
James
going to
Gunn
be
Superman?
first. I usually get gone to last, so I don't have anything to say. But
I'm not Kadish, so
that's fine. I don't really have anything much to say here either. I think Rachel Brosnahan has a pretty significant work history already, right? She seems fairly able to be able to do this. I think she looks like Lois Lane. I think they've casted her very well. Again, I'm not super familiar with her. I can't lie. I don't really have much of a personal opinion on this, other than the fact that I think both of these actors at least look like they could be inserted into the role. Cornsweet looks like a young Henry Cavill to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He looks like a literal put 15 pounds of muscle on him and put the suit on him and let's go. That's what I see.
It could be a really good thing for Henry Cavill, I might add.
Could be if they have some old Superman stuff coming out.
Right.
But
like Kingdom Come, which is the last comic that James Gunn was reading on Instagram.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just I don't have a huge issue with this. We all knew that he was going to recast these roles, and there's a Tom Connors, and I don't have a huge real issue. So congratulations to them for getting these life-changing roles, because they're going to be Lois Lane and Superman now for the rest of their lives and nothing else. So yeah, I got no problem with either one of these. That's it.
Brian, I'm going to go to you next. And it sounds like you have some insider information on this. So take it away, sir.
Yeah. So first off, I called this 2 weeks ago on the Salty Nerd Show in Vegas, if you guys recall. I did say that out of all the front runners, I guess at the time we were talking about a new front runner, and I was like, that guy is not the guy. They're just using his name to pad the contract for David Cornsweet. And if you haven't seen, there's a prequel to the show X, or the movie X. It's called Pearl. David Cornsweet's in that. He's pretty good. He's the right height. He's like 6'4" or so. Yeah, he's got the look. He looks like a young Superman. Looks like a young Henry Cavill, which is probably a good thing, because if you haven't read this, you should read this. It's a fantastic comic book. It's called Kingdom Come. It's quite large. And it's about older Superman. So the fact that he looks like a young Henry Cavill might bode well if we ever actually get to a Kingdom Come. Then we might be able to see a surprise return of Henry Cavill. Who knows? In regards to Rachel Brosnahan, she was great in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She has the look. She can speak to speak. She sounds like a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. She has that cadence in her voice. She was in House of Cards.
Yes.
She was great in House of Cards.
Yes.
She's a good actress. She's a good actress. And I would argue that Lois is the second most important casting for a Superman movie. Not because, it's obviously Superman and Lois, right? But because Lois is what brings the humanity to Superman. His upbringing and his life with Lois is really where all the dramatic bits fit in. So it's very important to cast someone who can act really well and that has that cadence in their voice. I was very happy with Rachel Brosnahan's casting. As far as David Corenswet, I mean, cool. He looks the part. I think that I watched him recently when I saw the confirmation of this in, like I said, Pearl and The Politician, and he's okay. I think that if the writing is good, he can really go far with this role, and I like the casting. I like the casting of Henry Cavill Light. He looks the part. I mean, that's been real. He looks like Henry Cavill, and I really like the casting of Rachel Brosnahan. I did not like whatever her name was, Amy
Adams.
Amy Adams. I didn't like Amy Adams.
Oh yeah.
Never liked her. Now, I don't mind the actress per se, but I didn't like her as Lois. She didn't fit the role for me. I dealt with it because I loved Henry Cavill in that movie. It's still one of my favorite movies, but I didn't like Amy Adams. And so this is a better Lois Lane for sure. Assuming the writing's good. And I believe that David Corenswet can pull it off. I think that the majority of the acting is going to come from, I think the onus for the acting has to be on the Lois character and the Lex character. So the next person they're casting is going to be Lex Luthor. And that is going to be really important, that you cast someone who has the ability to emote and, has some weight to him. I don't want to see a Mark Zuckerberg.
I know who I would cast as Lex Luthor. I know I can tell you exactly who.
The Rock.
No, Tom Connors. I think Tom Connors would be a good...
No, Dylan Mulvaney.
He
Gotta go all out.
He's just gonna, Tom. If Tom loses like 100 pounds, he can totally play Lex Luthor.
He doesn't have to do that. Tom, welcome, sir. How are you? Tom,
I'm awake.
there you are. What are your thoughts on Corenswet and Brosnahan?
Well, I don't know Corenswet too much, but I was told that Brosnahan was the one that they wanted from the start. In fact, it was up to her to take the role. The other people were just being auditioned in case she said no. So that tells me that Gunn has had her in mind from the start.
Nice.
Right on.
There is some some possible casting for Lex, the guy who played Beast in X-Men.
he was up for it. Then he put himself in the running for Superman. He did. He literally did.
Oh, no.
And then the two of the Skarsgård boys are also up for Luthor.
I will take the younger of the Skarsgård. I like him.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. He's a bit skinny. He would have to bulk up like his brother did for that.
They can do it.
Movie.
How many Skarsgårds are there?
12.
There was a Skarsgård that was in Succession recently who did really well too. Is that one of the brothers? It is, right?
Are we going to have to do like we do with the Baldwins and have like Baldwin Prime, Lesser Baldwin, and Mini Baldwin, or how do we distinguish these people?
Yeah,
by movie roles is basically the only thing you can do.
Yeah, you got Pennywise, you got the Viking, and then you got Daddy Viking,
the vampire, Eric the Viking.
Ooh, I want to see Alexander Skarsgård because his name is already Lex. So let's just shave that guy's head. And he was great in Succession, bro. He was great in Succession. Yes, out of the brothers, I think Alexander's the better fit because Bill looks like he might be a mutant.
When are
those weird eyes.
I think they need to make a movie where it's just all siblings. We get the Hemsworths, the Skarsgårds, and the Baldwins, and we put them like in a
murder Baldwin, not very funny Baldwin.
Yeah.
So don't film at a shooting range at all. Ever.
No. The Baldwins are dead.
Well, we went to Laser Quest and somehow they all got shot. I don't know what happened.
Adam Baldwin's still here.
Real quick, guys, we got a super chat from the Mexican Iron Man. The best casting is this great group of panelists. Shout out to one and all. What's up, Mexican Iron Man?
It's not perfect because you're not here, Mikey.
Oh, Mikey.
Yeah, that
send that guy a link, V. Send that guy a link. And Dustin, real quick, I know I see your super chat, but it has to do with Star Trek, so I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it for when we're talking about
Star Trek is still a thing.
Well, maybe not for long.
Actually, I did hear some inside stuff on that too.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
Where's it going?
Odin, you're next up, buddy. What's your thoughts on the casting for Superman and Lois Lane?
Yeah, as far as the actual casting itself, I mean, I'm kind of in agreement with most of y'all, because I think that ultimately both actors, the only one that I know really anything of is Rachel Dosnahan, because of Marvelous Miss Maisel, and I've seen her in a couple other things, and she's solid. She's been a working actress, it looks like, from about maybe 2010 or so. So she's had some years, and so she's definitely going to be someone that's going to be able to take on this role. Also, the personality that I remember seeing from her in that Amazon series kind of reminds me a little bit of Erica Durance's energy, a little bit from Smallville. And that's kind of like, I don't have a lot of knowledge of Superman itself. The biggest knowledge I have is really of the Smallville series, and so a lot of how she acts kind of reminds me a little bit of Erica Durance's performance there. So I don't know if anyone has thoughts about
Honestly,
whether that was good or not.
A lot of people brought that up, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if Gunn watched that show and goes, "There's my Lois Lane."
That's what I want. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that probably the most influence was the Marvelous Miss Maisel show, because she has that snappy patter. She played that character beautifully, and she's got range. I mean, we've seen her in lots of stuff. So
Yeah, and with Corin Sweat, I don't know too much about him. I was looking at his filmography, and so he's also been around too. So a big thing, they didn't get just complete nobodies, so no just fresh faces that have almost no experience whatsoever. My bigger concern has to do with whether just any of this getting off the ground, because I'm looking at what's going on with The Flash. I'm looking at what's probably going to happen with Blue Beetle. I'm just looking at how all this stuff is just, it seems like Warner Brothers is crumbling apart at the seams. And so, in addition to the writer's strike delaying things, if we get it, I think that these could be good choices. But are we going to get there? How long is it going to take? Is the length of time going to eventually lead to them taking on other projects? Who knows? Because we've seen that happen before, where because of strikes or because of delays happening, you have people who just can't continue. But we'll have to wait and see.
The other thing I was told is that they had to get these deals in place before the possible actor strike.
Yeah.
So they want to get this done. And you also got to remember, all these movies that are coming out from Warner Brothers, these are movies from the old regime.
yeah,
Right? So they're still moving garbage out of the way before they even get to some of the newer stuff.
Yeah, they're still promoting it, though.
Yeah, well, of
And I
course,
know-
they
I know
have
they
to.
have to.
They
I know
have
they
to.
have to,
Like,
but
at the
still.
end of the day, what are you going to do? But they just got to get it out of the way, basically.
But when the head of your entire new franchise is saying, this is the best movie ever, it's like, I don't trust you at all, James Gunn.
I feel. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like he might just be being polite. Like he doesn't want to
It's his
throw
job.
shade at anybody. Yeah, it's his job to promote these things.
Yeah, but
He's literally the head of DC now. So, like, everything coming out is, under
The
his
greatest
purview.
thing ever.
It would be better he'd say that than go, well, all you fans are all this, and this, which we've seen constantly through every other media out there. So I guess that's saving face, even if he doesn't believe it.
We're actually watching two major studios play failed chess, or actually more akin to failed checkers. They're failing across the board in strategy. Disney, you can point out all their failures across the board, across every thing that they control. I mean, not just their studio properties, but when you look at Warner Brothers, that was the worst decision ever made by somebody who is the new studio head of DC. You end up with them saying, oh, well, we're going to kick aside all this other stuff that we have coming out and announce all this other great thing, and that none of these things that we're releasing have any, they don't matter. They aren't going to influence, the future. And that was the stupidest thing you could possibly say, because now you've, hacked interest in half, and that's dumb. And then you're right, Odin. I mean, I think I'm leaning towards you. I'm like, I feel like they're going to have like very disappointing Blue Beetle. They're going to have very disappointing Aquaman 2. And, it was all a result of some very bad decision making. But as far as the casting goes, just because I want to get my thoughts out there, Brosnahan's perfect. Corin Sweat, I don't know, man. Dude needs like 17 Subway sandwiches a day and like the Ben Affleck like lifting program to get there. You had some other choices that were already in fantastic physical shape that do look very much like Superman. As far as his facial appearance, I agree with what Brian said. In the face, he looks like a young Superman. In the body, he looks like, I don't know,
Tom Holland.
Mr. Fantastic. I mean, he's very thin. And so we'll see. Maybe he needs to bulk up. Also, the ladies were commenting, I think on a show Tom was on, about there are other attributes that he may or may not have, but he does have the butt dimple in his chin, so he's good to go.
First, I thought he was going to say that he has the butt, And I was
No.
like, oh, what are you going with this one? huh?
No. But the ladies have noticed that there might be some areas where, anyway, I don't know. But Brosnahan's perfect. I couldn't have picked a better Lois Lane out of the group, and I think we're going to get a better representation of Lois than we did at anything recently, and that's kind of a win. It's kind of a win.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right, and our new panelist, Fat Steven Seagal. Welcome to the show, sir. And what are your thoughts on the casting?
Again, with everything, I wouldn't call it fatigue. I'm very skeptical, but I do like the way they look. It kind of gives me hints at they're trying to branch not just a younger Superman, but he has the crossover of Cavill and Dean Cain. If you remember Dean Cain in his early days with the Lois and Clark series, you can see some of that in him too. And if he bulks up, that face is going to bulk up as well. And that means for the ladies, the butt, as Culture was saying, will bulk up, and everyone will be happy because it's going to be a skin tight suit eventually. But the other time is like we can make all of the precautionary guesses and hays and yays we want, but until we see either a trailer or a first time delivery teaser, this is all up in the air, and that's what's going to fall under time. And will the time be long enough for us to care again? And will the time be long enough for it to bury everything the old regime did? Thank you, Hamada and all those weirdos. It's up in the air. It's like Russian roulette right now. There's a bullet in the chamber, but we don't know when we're going to start passing around the gun.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Tom, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
As far as which part?
Well, I know you kind of dropped your 2 cents in, but if you have any final thoughts on this, I'll let you finish up this discussion.
Well, just the whole Warner Brothers thing, where we're at right now. James Gunn is slowly telling everybody but what I and a few others have been saying for a while. This is going to get completely rebooted. Yeah, things were in flux for a while. We had that really great write-up of how everything went down behind the scenes, and, you know, there was also the stuff with The Rock and everything else that happened all at the same time when James Gunn came on. So it's going to be interesting to see what they pull out of this. I think a lot of people are still just kind of burnt out on the whole DC thing, so it's going to be nice to have a nice little break before Superman. So by the time Superman comes around in a year and a half, I think we'll be good to go. I like the casting. I think Rachel Brosnahan is a good choice. One of the better choices we've had in a while for Lois. I don't know anything about this Corn Sweat guy, which I'm glad. I want Superman to be Superman. That's one of my problems with Henry Cavill. I don't mind him as an actor, and I think he's great in the role. If he would have ever gotten to play Superman, it would have been nice. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's getting older, and they want a younger Superman. It's understandable. This guy's roughly the same age Cavill was when he started playing the role. He looks like Superman, so I'm glad I haven't really seen him in nothing else. I don't want him to be anything but Superman to me, so I'm looking forward to that. So, other than that, I mean, it's just one of those things where I'm burnt out on a lot of this stuff, just like everybody else. So I'm glad we're going to get a break after Aquaman.
Right on. My 2 cents. I'm just happy that there's no stunt casting involved in this. We don't have like Lois Lane or anything like that going on.
Right.
These two people fit the bill of the classic characters, and that makes me really happy. Like, we're not trying to change anything. We're not going to try and do any goofy Hollywood nonsense. This is just like straight out of the comics. Here are the two characters that you know and love. So I believe this guy can bulk up super easily. He gets a hold of some Hollywood freaking nutritionist, and he's going to be 50 pounds heavier of muscle. So give him like 6 weeks and some steroids, and he'll be just fine. Yeah, I think it's cool. I'm glad this is a surprisingly positive panel for the Salty Saturday. I thought you guys were going to have some like curmudgeon something to say, but you're like, no, this is great. Cool. Let's go.
We're saving it for Trek and Indy, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know that he can afford to do the steroid thing. I mean, it does some things to places. So.
Like butts.
Well, they just put a his butt will get bigger, but something else will get smaller.
No, not
All
that.
right.
It's all about the butt.
All
Now
about
for-
the butt.
If Vader can pull up that banner, we're going to move into our main topic for today: Star Trek, Strange
the wrath
New
of
Worlds,
man.
The Wrath of a New Timeline. All right, so we've all watched episode 3. Came out, I guess, recently. I watched it last night. I haven't seen any of the Strange New World stuff, but I had a chance to watch episode 3 before coming on the panel, and my God, that was truly awful. So we all know the premise of this. They've gone back in time and they changed some major timeline, like plot points and major historical events within the Star Trek timeline. and have just done away with the old original series dates. The eugenics wars, World War III, all that stuff has now been moved up. And before we get into the topic, I have a quote from the showrunner as to why they did this. So I figured we'd start with that, and then we can kind of bounce our ideas and our criticisms off of this showrunner's take on this. So the quote is, "Beyond the idea of addressing past inconsistencies of Star Trek, Goldsman and fellow showrunner Henry Alonso felt it was imperative to alter the dates of these key in-universe events in order to keep the aspirational part of the series alive. With the dates officially pushed forward, we can now all say that the future of Star Trek is still possible in our world, provided we can work to get there." So basically, having these events happen in the 90s and early 2000s and stuff like that, obviously we're well past that in our life in the real world. So they want to move that so that Star Trek can somehow fit into the world that we live in today and be more, I guess, attainable for us, because that's a reason, supposedly. I'm going to start with Brian. Take it away, sir. The floor is yours.
Yeah, first off, that statement is silly and stupid and fucking all kinds of retarded. I got nothing good to say about that. He should have said nothing. If they're going to change the timeline and allow us all to exist here in a timeline that is different than what we love, great. But saying that they want to move the timeline forward to make it, shut up. It's so stupid. It's so goddamn stupid. Look, if you want to do it canonically because you want more creative control over what you're doing, you want to make Michael Spock's sister, and you want there to be some weird religious Klingon sect that look like the trolls from Lord of the Rings, and you want a spore drive and blah, blah, blah. If you want to do that, that's fine. You can do whatever you want creatively. I don't like it. I don't agree with it, whatever. But at least this time change and the fact that Romulans have been here for 50 plus years, modifying our history because we're going to be a troublesome race. At the very least, canonically, that explains all the changes. The fact that the starships are bigger, and all the things I mentioned earlier. In addition to everything that's bothered Trekkies, at the very least, this gives us a canonical explanation as to why things are so different.
Brian, can I interject really quick?
Sure.
I know I've been muted for like the last 20 minutes. I didn't even know it. So what I hear is, hey man, we don't know Star Trek, or we've screwed it up so bad that we're going to write this bullshit statement because now we can just have our own sandbox to play in after we've already messed everything up. So everything that we've done doesn't matter because it's not connected to your precious Berman era Star Trek stuff. So screw all you fans. We're going to do what we want.
Yeah,
it's right.
It doesn't have to be the same as the Legacy Trek because, we moved it forward. His explanation is infuriating. When I saw that they had changed it, we actually have a video coming out tomorrow morning. Hopefully tomorrow morning, if I can finish my editing, about this exact topic where we lay it out very detailed with timelines where we explain every change. And if that's all they did, at the very least, we can celebrate knowing, okay, we're watching Star Trek that has been changed so dramatically, we can stop nitpicking, or not even nitpicking. We can stop complaining about the vast differences to what we remember in our original Legacy Trek. But his statement makes that celebration null and void because he says we didn't do it so that we can explain canonical changes and so we can create within our own wheelhouse, our own sandbox or whatever. His explanation is stupid. We want it to reflect real life, and that never happened. Shut up. Star Trek doesn't reflect real life. It's an alternate history. It's always been an alternate history. I don't know. I don't understand why he even opened his mouth. It was stupid.
It sounds like he was watching one of the other bigger YouTube channels out there that have said the same thing before in a different way. At least if you went out in the beginning when you came out with Discovery or Strange New Worlds or any type of Kurtzman Trek, you were saying this is a total different universe, a total different timeline. And it sounds like he just took the paraphrase of that and applied it to whatever that statement was very loosely.
You have a good
And-
point. We have a video with 1 million views that literally has a very similar theory to how Romulans and the Borg changed the history.
Yeah.
Then we have another video that came out about a year later called The Secret Reboot, where we explain how it could be a completely different universe. But again, these were all theories until this episode dropped, when we were like, oh, okay, so we weren't 100% right, but we were in the right wheelhouse when it comes to this being a different universe. It's 100% a different timeline. They've been modifying human history for 50 plus years, which means that even if La'an went back and fixed her timeline, the funny thing is that she says her and the alternate Kirk were like, well, I remember this bomb going off on my bridge in my timeline. And she goes, well, then obviously this is not the event, because we both remember that. Okay, but hold up. Aren't you concerned that there's a fucking bomb from the future that just blew up a bridge? That should have been your first. If you remember it, that means you're also in the wrong timeline.
What it sounds like is a Wish version of not Generations, but the one First Contact. Remember First Contact with the Borg going back? So if I was going to be the Romulans, the first thing I would do is I would stop the Vulcans ever landing on Earth, blow them out of the sky. If you're monitoring Earth so well, why are you picking Canada?
Yeah, why are you picking Canada in 2022?
South Park has got questions with
that time.
As an American, I was completely offended that they based this show in Toronto.
Well, I'm offended you're on top of me.
You know why?
Now.
That's because they were shooting there, bro.
I know, that's where they're shooting the show. It's just like Toronto. What is? I never heard of Toronto.
It's expensive. It's more expensive to rent out New York's Times Square than it is Toronto.
Mr. Matt Vader, it's called Toronto. That's how the
cheap show is in Toronto. Come on,
Toronto.
Yeah, the fact that Khan is in Toronto is Toronto. Whatever is weird.
Yeah, Canada started the eugenics war. Yeah, we hit Khan.
I like how they didn't even mention the fact
Canadians.
That the Romulan. She said we've been modifying history for 50 years, and La'an doesn't even blink at that statement. The fact that that means that she's in an alternate timeline. Like, she should immediately recognize that her timeline exists outside the correct timeline. And they altered it. It's almost like they're taking what Stephen Hawking said about the ripples in time, and how eventually when the ripples change, the water goes back to flat. Time always wants to go back to its original state. And so these events are going to happen because they're fixed points. It's just so stupid. But canonically, I could be like, okay, fine. Canonically, we can theorize, we can go back to Trek, and we can stop complaining about the fact that Spock is basically more emotional than I am on these shows every Saturday.
Yeah.
We can stop complaining about certain things because it's a different timeline, and we can just criticize it based on its writing. But we still can't even do that because this fucking idiot comes forward and takes that from us.
I have a theory.
He takes it from us and says, no, we just did it so that it would reflect real life. Fuck you, Akiva.
hold on, Steve. I want to read one more thing out of this article, and then I want to pass the baton to Tom, because I want to hear his thoughts and reaction to this. So there's another paragraph in this article. It's not a quote from anybody, but it says, some Star Trek fans may initially look at this change and think blasphemy. I think he's talking about you. The truth of the matter is the franchise has struggled across many of its shows to maintain the original timeline of the eugenics wars. Star Trek Voyager went back to the 20th century without recognizing it, and Picard season 2, which we all hope didn't happen, took place in present-day San Francisco without any real indication of it ever happening. Tom,
we complained about that too, by the way, because that was stupid.
Well, full disclosure, I have not watched anything Star Trek in the last couple of years. But I do have a pretty consistent source on things behind the scenes. And there's a huge disconnect, as there always is, between the fans, what they think the fans want, and people like Kurtzman who are in charge of this thing. And at the end of the day, it sounds like Paramount is in big disarray right now. They may be setting themselves up for sale. And in that, believe it or not, I'm hearing rumors. And again, these are just rumors that they're separating Star Trek again from Paramount. And it will be put under CBS and CBS only because they're going to sell Paramount off. So they'll separate it from... So basically one of the few things that's in Paramount's coffers that's worth anything. And then it will be co-owned, I hear, by Secret Hideout underneath CBS, where Kurtzman will continue to run Star Trek into the ground. And I'm also hearing Strange New World got a 50-episode order.
Oh,
Wow.
I know. So I was
Timeline
told,
was it ordered in?
hey, about
I hope
Strange New
none
Worlds-
of this is true, but the source on this is pretty solid.
So I'll
That's all
tell you
I'm
about.
saying.
I don't know about anything you said, but I could tell you this: Strange New Worlds did get under the. It hasn't been announced yet. I guess I'm announcing it here. From what I've heard, Strange New Worlds did get a season 4 renewal already, but they're waiting until season 3 shoots to announce it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And
guys,
I heard that from one of the actors on the show.
If you guys don't mind, we have a ton of super chats to go through
Yeah,
real
let me
quick.
get those
I've
up.
been.
Hold on.
You're gonna pull them up. Pull up
I'll pull
Dustin's
'em
real
up.
quick. His has been sitting there for a minute.
Yep.
Okay, cool, great. $5 from Dustin Neely. Thank you so much, sir, for the $5. Really appreciate it. Star Trek is being made by people that are. What does that say? Chagrined.
Chagrined.
There we go. Are chagrined by the original series. Real Captain Kirk for life. Yeah, this version of Captain Kirk was
Yeah, he's not good.
like real cringe to watch. Like his.
Well,
Go for it, Tom. Go
The
ahead.
thing with Kurtzman is that we need to understand, and this is what I keep trying to tell people, is he's not seen in the industry the way we see him. Right? Him doing this Star Trek stuff has been him slumming it and doing CBS a favor for the last few years. That's what we need to understand. So, yes, there's been some disarray because of the Picard thing, and the rest of it just has to do with CBS and Paramount being completely under financial dire straits at this point, not being able to do anything. And they're going to separate them so CBS doesn't fall with Paramount, pretty much is what I think is going to happen.
Right on.
Fluffy
Fluffy
the only
Panda.
hit Paramount's had is Top Gun, guys.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
That's true. That's true. Fluffy Panda for $2. Thank you. No Kadish. So go with Alex, the Goonies hater. That's
Yep.
You're absolutely
Wait,
right.
what?
That's right. Different
I agree
topic.
with that.
Different topic.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Well, let's
some
not
other
get
time.
into it right now.
Let's not do it. It's a whole.
Let's
It's a whole thing.
Start fighting.
We might fight about Goonies.
Oh, I will fight you about that movie.
Oh, I will
Son of
fight you
John, $10, a whopping $10. That's amazing. Thank you, sir. I agree with you. It's a load of BS. Just the show writer's way of making their inverted version of the city on the edge of forever. If Khan is killed, the whole Star Trek universe that we know is over. Khan is a very, very important part of the original Star Trek canon. And yeah, they keep going back to that. Like let's do Khan again. Let's like JJ did it with his stupid movies. Now they're doing it again with this. Now he's a kid, and they're gonna have to save him because you can't kill a kid. Are they gonna do the whole like? Would you go back and
on left a loaded weapon on his nightstand before disappearing into the ether right in front of him?
That's true.
Anyone not catch that? She literally put the loaded weapon down right next 2 feet away from the kid and then walked away and disappeared. I mean, like,
Can we also just backtrack that just a little bit where they looked at the picture and it showed the rest of the Resident Evil kids of Khan that were just from by Umbrella Corporation in the picture all wearing the same uniforms?
This is true.
There were shots in that episode that came right out of the Resident Evil movie. I was like, what is going on here with the bridges and the
what they're doing? They're gonna set up a spin-off where we're gonna get like
Umbrella?
we're gonna get like the Paramount version of Stranger Things, and it's gonna be Khan with his little experimented children running around the world doing crazy things.
It sounds. What's weird is for whatever reason to me it sounds like that we're doing Gotham like here because you've got like little kid Batman, and you're like, what the flip, man? I don't want this.
Even with that interaction, though, if we're looking at this, just Khan interacting with that woman in general, eventually he's going to grow up and remember because he's part of the eugenics, everything, right? He's going to remember what she looks like when she becomes an adult, right? So what is going to happen when he has that realization going, what was with the time travel? So the timeline's still messed up, even if you saved his life. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's not the prime timeline anymore, so it doesn't matter. They can do whatever they want.
That's the good time in Kurtzman.
But but that's a good part about this is that it's a different time. We can canonically say that Strange New Worlds and Discovery is a different timeline and
has nothing to do.
But what happens if he picks up the gun and gets scared and there's an accident?
I know. Yeah,
doesn't matter.
It really doesn't really matter. But him seeing her disappear into the ether and everything that happened, I guarantee you that's going to shape. There's going to be some future storyline in season 5 where the reason why Khan became Khan was because of his interaction with La'an, which is a slight paradox right there. It's like
There's another.
They're coming back to kill him because he becomes that, but he becomes that because they went back to kill him. Oh, god damn it!
There's another problem with that too. If we go near the end, I'm sorry, when we have Martha from Doctor Who playing the Temporal Initiative Corporation of Star Trek, and she's like, "Well," and she didn't even ask, "Why'd you leave the gun on the table?"
Right? Yeah.
You can't say anything.
Can I get that watch back? And why did you leave the gun on the table? It's a 9-year-old. Jesus.
Yeah. I feel like culture is chomping at the bit to say something right now.
You should have let them know. Don't play with the gun. Just suck on the bullets. Ezra knows well.
I'm trying not to have a stroke is what's happening. But look, I mean, Whiskey Jack says it in his member chat, but I have to bring this up. This is why I hate alternate universes, alternate timelines, and all this other gobbledygook, right? You know, if you have a different take on the story, rewrite the story beginning to end. You admit you're just destroying everything that came before it, and you're replacing it with your garbage version of it. It's, you know, you've pulled so far away from the original, creation of all these characters and all of the many events that shape them and everything that that leads into why people enjoy this. You're stripping out the actual utopian version of humanity for something that you think is more attainable. If what I took away from what Brian said was out there, I have no interest in that. My worldview needs to be improved, not lowered. And right now it's really hard to get more bottomed out than a lot of people's worldview at the moment. Yeah. So, that's not what Star Trek's about. I don't need grittier Star Trek. I need let's return to utopian, the ideals that would be out there in the world for, progressivism, if that's a thing that you want to, dive headlong into. And we lost some.
There's a solution, though. There is a solution. And what we need is Benedict Cumberbatch to dress as Khan while wearing the Doctor Strange cape to go back into the multiverse, talk to Kid Khan and say, "This isn't for you. Pick up the gun, leave."
What's going on with Brian's connection is bad. It says this device is not connected.
We'll get him. He'll come back.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get him back. Let's get these super chats.
I want to address some other Star Treks, but let's do this really quick. Go ahead.
Chris White for $5 Canadian. This was the worst episode of Star Trek ever produced. Terrible direction, poorly written, dumb dialogue, super cheap, and incredibly stupid. I have some comments about how he gets money and rents like a
I was just going to
5,000 square foot loft in some freaking city somewhere for like $200.
Well, look, so they go into the episode, right, and they go back in time and they're like, "Hey, we need clothes and we need money." Okay, so what they do is they go to a department store and they shoplift these really nice, stylish, outfits. Very, very stylish. I make runways type stuff.
But did you notice?
And they look really good.
Kirk walks out with the same outfit that she's wearing.
Yeah.
He has to be the one to change.
Yeah.
She's got to be butched up. She's wearing the leather jacket.
She's in charge. She's in charge.
You're missing another thing though with that though. It relates to that. Okay, remember the camera shot, right, where they're showing from the register, right, and then how they're planning to get out, right, and they're showing the person at the register removing the tags. Even if the one person shoplifting got busted that they set up, their clothes would still go out and still be dangling off the sides.
It's exactly right. It's like
morons.
Right. It's like if you're going to shoplift, do it right. Come on. At least show people. And then they we need money. So Kirk is going to go hustle people at the chessboards in the park. But don't you have to have something to wager?
Isn't that illegal gambling?
Before you can wager something, it's like I'll put my and they didn't even have any phasers or tricorders or nothing.
Nothing.
What did they? I'm going to trade you my good word that I will pay you money if I lose this first game. It's very strange.
But don't worry. 2D chess is for morons. Yeah, you guys remember that was a line from this show, which was insulting at best.
And then we learned that he likes hot dogs. Kirk is a hot dog fan.
He does.
He really likes.
That's important information.
Yeah. And then just really weird. And I thought this was a weird edit or something strange because they went from the hot dog scene to them waking up in like the Ritz-Carlton. Okay. It was very, very strange how all of a sudden they're waking up in this really nice apartment or hotel or whatever it was. And it seemed to me the way she got out of bed and walked down the hallway and longingly looked at Kirk and how she was thinking about, jumping him. You know what I mean?
She was gonna bone his
I felt like there was like a good 6-month time jump, but there wasn't. It was the next morning, and it was just
I agree with you. First off, there should have been a time jump, at least a slight time jump for sure. It would have deepened their connection. And remember that everything in Canada is way cheaper. So the Ritz-Carlton.
Not anymore. What are you talking about? They woke up if I got this right, they woke up in either a really, really expensive hotel down on King Street near the Club District, or it was the Marion. And I'm sorry, after that shot of look at all the money I got to buy hot dogs. That you can't afford crap in those hotels. You cannot afford a one-night stay. No, it's $200 just to get in there.
Yeah. We got a $10 super chat from the Joker's Voice, longtime fan of the show. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for the $10. Sorry I'm late. Walked into our bar with $200 and walked out with $500. Well, thank you for sharing your winnings with us. We really appreciate that. Star Trek is back to suck. Shocking. Indy under KK sucks. Shocking. Marvel sucks. Shocking. Hail the SMP panel. Hashtag keep talking. Thank you, sir. Yeah, everything.
Although sucks. I got a sweet steel book of Picard season 3 coming that I'm very excited about.
That's cool.
All right, cool. You have to show it to us. You're gonna show it off on the panel next week, right?
Yeah, when it gets there. Yeah, it's on pre-order.
Cool. Fluffy Panda for another $5. They want to change it because they can't stand that 3 top toxic man James T. Kirk did it first. Just like Indy, they want to destroy the legacy. Yeah, I don't know. This version of Kirk was
he's not good.
All versions of new things coming out of Klutzman Trek is garbage.
I don't know. I didn't mind his Kirk. There's no way he's ever going to, hold up to Shatner. It's just not going to happen.
Is it the actor or the writers? I think it's the writers.
I think it's the writers. I think the actor is because remember we saw him in the first season where he was playing the alternate, another alternate version of Kirk, and he was darker and a little more, brooding or whatever. And that was him just acting out the writing. Now we have this version where it's he was raised on a ship called the USS Iowa, which is so fucking stupid. And this is a version of Kirk who's never seen Earth or whatever, and he is once again acting to his writing. I think that full disclosure, I've seen the rest of the season, and there's an episode coming up where he is playing Kirk, like the more proper version of our Kirk that was born in Iowa. That is a lieutenant in Starfleet, and he's a little more like Kirk.
Okay.
But he's never going to be Shatner Kirk. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And I don't think it's the actor's fault. I think it's the writer's fault. Just like I think Ethan Peck is actually doing a pretty good job with what he's given. I don't even like Ethan Peck as a person, but I think he's doing Spock. When he does Spock well, it comes through. I think it's the writing. I think the writing. They're writing Spock to be emotional and weird. I don't think Ethan Peck's the problem. I don't think whatever this guy's name is the problem. I do think it's the writing because we've seen him 3 times now. We've seen him in the alternate version with the Romulans. Then we saw this alternate version, and then we're gonna see him in I guess our alternate proper version coming up pretty soon. And he does a different version of Kirk every time, but it has glimpses of that sort of Shatner swagger in there. So I think he's writing to it. I think he's acting to his writing.
Brian, do you remember that video you made where you explained timelines and you had the lines connecting to all these things and the offshoots? I want you to redo that.
I'm going to that's going to be in the video tomorrow.
But the new timeline just needs to be like some weird line up here out of nowhere, just kind of like shooting off into space in its own direction.
I'll give you guys a preview.
Just put the Wish logo.
Timeline, and at one point it shoots off and it goes like.
just put the Wish logo on that timeline. Just put the Wish logo. But like when you're going back to Spock, I got to add something to that quickly. It is the writing, because that opening scene where he's hugging his whatever the hell, his cello, whatever that little, his harp, whatever you want to call it, mandolin, and you're like, he always complains that you're being too loud, and he looks like he just got fired at a Hot Topic.
Yeah.
It was like it was so bad, and he's hugging it like, okay, I'll just go back to my room and sulk and play quieter. Don't you have?
The fact that he's even learning the Vulcan lute now is a complete complete divulgence of the original timeline. He is supposed to have grown up with that instrument, not had been given that instrument by M'Benga.
But isn't there tech far enough that literally every quarters is soundproof in general.
You would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
See-
I'm hoping that it's soundproof. We have sonic showers, but we can't fucking soundproof the room. Get out of here.
They need the cone of silence. He needs the cone of silence to sit there and play his little violin, whatever the fuck.
Season 2 Spock has regressed from season 1 Spock. He's worse. He's a worse Spock now than he was in season 1. So I don't know, it's very strange. It's very strange. We got more supers.
Yeah. Fluffy Panda for another $5. They're making Enterprise, the TV show that came out a couple early 2000s.
Bacula, right? Bacula.
Yeah, the Count Bacula Enterprise. A work of art. At least they respected the lore of Kirk and what that crew accomplished. Goonies hater.
Yeah.
Mahaha. We'll talk about that later. Fluffy Panda. And then real quick, $2 from Whiskey Jack, or £2, sorry. Winona was consulting on how to shoplift. LOL. Yeah. That shoplifting scene was so cringe.
Did we get the Chris White one? Did we do this
Yeah,
one?
we got Chris White. Yeah, we sure did. $5 Canadian.
It's changed now to what is it? To live long and whimper. That's the way I look at Spock right now, because he's always sad. I can't handle that, man. His logic is not there anymore. It's so weird.
How did you guys feel about him stealing a car by Vulcan neck pinching somebody and then not knowing how to drive it? Like not understanding how to drive a car, and then 5 minutes later doing drifts across the road and like doing burnouts and 180s and stuff like that.
He did a turnout, which I learned in the military, and it took me like 4 days of damaging the vehicle I was in before I figured out how to do a turnout correctly. He did it in like 3 seconds. And I'm like, either I'm just stupid or this is bad writing.
Was I insane, or did I get a little bit of the music from JJ's movie when young Kirk is in the car at the beginning of that movie? I thought I heard a music cue that was the same as the.
You mean like Beastie Boys or something?
I really think I did. It was, yeah.
I'd have to go back and look.
They couldn't afford Beastie Boys.
I
So they
can't
went with
it. I know you wanted it.
Yeah.
Tom, it's the equivalent Greasy Boys.
Greasy Boys. No, it's Dwight Schrute and Michael Scott's version of Beastie Boys song. Tom, it sounded like you had something to add to this discussion. Do you want to?
No, I'm listening to a lot of what you guys are saying, and I'm just glad I'm not watching this anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny that they keep going back to certain is it, and this is just indicative of all these franchises. It's not just Star Trek, right? What do they go back to? They keep going back to Wrath of Khan and Star Trek 4. Why? Because those are the 2 most popular ones. That's why. And at the end of the day, they don't even pay attention to those. So it really just boggles my mind how some people think that this is going to go over well with one of the most pedantic fan bases on the planet. Right? I mean, there is none more than Trek, to where it's like, you screw something up, they will let you know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's entire channels dedicated to letting you know.
He did not have that on his lapel. He actually had it on his leg.
Well, wait a minute. He was actually raised playing the Vulcan lute. He was not given the Vulcan lute by Mavenga.
This is what I love about Star Trek fans, is because we can argue about this stuff for days on end about benign things about when Spock actually learned to play
Star
the
Trek,
lute
the motion
in
picture. His ears were 3.5 centimeters long, and Wrath of Khan, they were 3.
They clearly got the brand of his lute wrong.
What I don't
understand, creator.
What I don't understand is because they're so dedicated to a lot of this modern identitarian political crap that they haven't done the season of Pon Farr like any kind of service in any of these shows. Because
good Lord, hope they don't get to that anytime soon. That'll be some nuts.
I feel sorry for that nurse when that Pon Farr hits, because
I
it's going to be
can't wait
something on,
until we see a threesome with T'Pring and Chapel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
I'm hoping T'Pol makes an appearance and just holds her hair up. That's all we need right there.
Yeah.
Taste the rainbow, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know. I'm going to say Pon Farr has always sounded like, to me, something you get in an ice cream shop.
Okay, then.
Wouldn't that be?
Yeah, I want a Pon Farr. Can you put cherries on that? And some nuts, yeah.
You should, Tom. You should just start an ice cream shop yourself and have all the ice creams named after Star Trek references,
like Pon Farr and
yeah.
You only get the cherries once, Tom.
Make sure, if you do Pon Farr has to have nuts in it, though, right?
Nuts and cherries.
You guys are making me wish the experience.
berries.
You guys are making me wish the experience was still here,
Spicy
so I could go
nuts and
down and
cherries.
get a warp core breach.
Can I just?
Oh, I missed that, bro.
I know, me
that
too.
giant, huge
Big bowl.
monstrosity give you alcohol poisoning if you finish it yourself.
Can we highlight that driving chase scene for a minute there? Because I knew the locations of where it started, and then when he backed up, and I'm looking at the topographic of Canada, right in downtown Toronto. You know, in the chase scene, right, where he's driving his red car like he's just got out of Gran Turismo.
Oh, in Toronto?
Yeah. Thank you. In Toronto. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, man. Okay, they didn't even set it up right because I'm looking at the locations, and it's like, okay, you just took a right off Wellington, and now you're driving on the outskirts of what was, I think it was the CBC parking lot, like walkways, and the welfare building, and then magically you popped out right beside Roy Thompson Hall, and I'm like, you guys just don't know what you're doing.
What we're missing about this discussion about the car chase is the fact that the police pull him over, about ready to arrest him, but stop because an activist is holding a camera on them and telling them how horrible they are, and they're like, well, we can't go up against this activist. We have to run away now.
I love that part. That was almost like
intimidating with her phone.
That was almost like making fun of current culture. He was like, he's actually
lawyer,
civil rights lawyer, or whatever. Yeah. How about the fact that the Romulan chick? Why was she there with a modern camera, like taking pictures of the bridge? Why did she have all these? Why did she even spend any time with them explaining her conspiracy theories, which was crazy? She spends all that time talking about the aliens are actually here. Why is she offering that information to these random people she met on the street?
To give us the audience context.
But that's the other thing, Brian. How did she find them?
Right.
First of all, like honestly, like
they went all the way to Vancouver, right?
She didn't. Oh yeah, because they saw her. She was taking photos of the bridge with like a camera, and they saw her and like, hey, let me see that picture. And then when she was like, hey, look at this, that looks like was it a photon torpedo damage?
It was a proton bomb or a
proton bomb.
Yeah.
I think the lady heard her say that and was like, oh, well, these guys know what they're talking about. They must be, maybe she was like, oh, they must be from the future.
Well, then she offers all this information about conspiracy theories, and then she follows them to also the building is like, so they're filming in Toronto, but then they also film that scene in the building in New York. FYI, that building is in New York. It's a famous building. I'm not sure why they switched locations. Well, they went all the way to Vancouver to talk to insert 2,000-year-old alien chick here, and then they came back to Toronto, to go to the very unsecure cold fusion location. They just walked in. So did she follow them all the way to Vancouver and then back to Toronto?
No, they went to Vermont, and then they came
Vermont.
Back. It was Vermont,
right,
yeah. And
isn't that far away too, though? Like,
but how did she track them? How did she track them? Because if that bridge is one side of the city, and then found them on one side of the city, and then it makes no sense. How would you know? There was no plant of anything.
Am I correct?
She should have said that she was waiting there. Like when she said I followed you, that was like it adds so many questions that come up, right?
But the activist scene, because honestly, that doesn't happen in that timeline. We wouldn't see that much, honestly. Like you're saying, oh, he's a civil rights lawyer. How would you know that? How would you be there at the exact time?
How about the cops? Like, I'm sorry, are you telling us not to arrest the white guy?
Here's the thing, though, guys.
What is the question here?
We're back to we are back to pre-Picard season 3 Star Trek. That is bad, and here's the reason why. This comment from Sander. Don't you wait? Is that the right one? Yeah. Don't you think that is not the right one? They fucking. Here we go. You guys put more thoughts to this episode than the writers, editors, and director combined.
I've been hearing that comment for like 4 years.
The problem. That's the problem with current Star Trek. These people that are making this stuff don't care, or they don't know what they're doing, and it's a really, really sad.
That's why Picard season 3 was such like a breath of fresh air. Even though I got less views, because I get more views when we're complaining than when we're liking something. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't even care about the views. I'm finally enjoying Star Trek for the first time in like 15 years, and we didn't get those comments anymore. We all the comments were pretty positive, and now we're back to that. You guys are putting more thought into this than the writers do, and it drives me nuts. Like, I get it. I guess it's job security for us on YouTube, but for the love of God, I'd rather not have a channel and enjoy television again than anything else.
Yeah.
I miss Picard season 3 now. When I tell you the last episode, I'm so glad. I'm so sad it's over because I think this is like, this was the last time we're going to get something we actually like for a very long time until it's completely handed off to somebody else.
I think we've talked about Star Trek enough.
Yeah, we're going to move on to Indiana Jones. Odin has been too quiet, and I need to hear that sweet voice of Odin. Let's move on to Indiana Jones box office. So this is an article from Variety, and I love
Odin
this spin.
I have my Odin figure right here.
Oh, nice.
Oh wait, that's Teen Wolf. Never mind.
All right, so the title for this is hilarious because it's such a spin. Box office: Indiana Jones 5 to Lasso, because he's a cowboy. $65 million opening, a decent start.
Wouldn't it be better as Whip Up?
Except
when you say Whip
for
Up,
it's huge.
not Lasso.
Yeah, Whip Up, not Lasso. Lasso's a cowboy thing. These people are idiots. A decent start, except for its huge $295 million budget. Odin, this is your part of the expertise. So take it away.
Yes, please tell us, Odin, how this is faring against the big hits like The Flash and Little Mermaid.
Oh, it's just
Hold
it's
on,
amazing.
I gotta change my face quickly.
Go on.
No.
Tell me about how my movie's losing money. Yeah. So while I was being quiet, because I'm not really into modern Star Trek, so I wanted y'all to do y'all's thing. I put in some numbers, and I just thought this was interesting. So back in 2008, let's go back in time a little bit. All right. So in 2008, you had Crystal Skull, which let's just be honest, okay? It's not really an Indiana Jones movie. I know that some people acknowledge it, some people choose to ignore it. I mean, there's only really 3 Indiana Jones movies. That film opened domestically to $144 million when you adjust those numbers for inflation.
What movie is this?
This is Crystal Skull. I'm calling it Crystal Skull. I'm not calling it by its full name because
I've never heard of this movie.
Yeah, I'm not including Indiana Jones.
The Crystal
You know
Fridge.
what's sad is I actually like the Crystal Skull better now because of the new movie.
God.
I like the
my
new movie
goodness.
more than I like Legend of the Crystal Skull.
Oh,
I
like
have
Birds
a
of
weird
Prey.
Or Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, whatever.
I have a weird argument with that about which one's
I didn't
better,
like the
'cause
first movie, but I think this movie was better than that.
I think-
it was just called Flying Monkeys. Like, the fuck out of here.
I'll take that
Oh,
any
yeah.
day. At least Indiana Jones is being Indiana Jones in it, not Fleabag's assistant.
Yes, that's true. But $144 million domestic opening weekend was what Crystal Skull made, and this movie right now is projected to make $60 million domestic in its opening. So well more than half. What's even more hilarious is when you actually take into account average ticket price. So opening weekend, 13.9 million tickets was what Crystal Skull brought in back in 2008. If this holds at 60 million, 4.6 million tickets. 13.9 to 4.6.
Ouch.
Was that all bought by Applebee's?
Yes.
Well, it's
Clearly.
interesting because, back in 2008, tickets were what, $7.18, $7.20, something like that.
They were $7.18.
Yeah. So right, then you look at what it costs average, and we have even more large premium format screens right out there in the world, right? Premium large formats. And you're looking at, the availability of theaters is also up. How many more screens are there since 2008, Odin? It's a boatload. You cannot get butts in seats.
Yeah.
There's another interesting thing that is, Odin will know the answer to this right off the top of his head. What was the average earning per screen for that preview day?
For the preview day for the current movie?
For the film, yeah.
So so for the entire Friday, $5,000 per screen.
Wow. Any idea what it was for in 08?
So the problem with the preview days is that when they do these numbers, actually, hold on, yeah, they do have it, because whenever they do the full opening weekend, sometimes they don't add certain days. Like the Thursday numbers count towards the Friday, but when you have a Wednesday release, how are they going to count that? I think they're still going to count it towards it, but yeah. So on Thursday, it made $1,600 per screen.
Wow.
So. Yeah. So
Hookers
Thursday
make more than that in one night.
Well, Elemental bid 2.4 million, where it did 7.2 million. So a brand new film making only 7.2 million.
So there was
Elemental's a whole nother set of problems.
There was a Gallup poll that actually compared movie going pre 2019, And every year since 2019, we've lost almost 13% of audience. That means that by now in 2023, we're down almost 40% than pre-2019 moviegoers.
I
So
would
there's more strains and less people watching movies.
Well, and I would actually suggest we're over 50% of lost audience at this point because of the.
This said 43%.
Yeah, because of the but the average ticket price. If you look at let's go back to 89. You look at those numbers and you're having fewer butts in seats, and that's a real problem. I mean, there's a premium on everything, not just the ticket prices, over and above inflation, but you also have a premium in concession costs and everything else.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. How about this? They used to, and every theater used to give a free refill with that giant popcorn, right? I'm gonna rant here. You get a giant bucket of popcorn that costs you like $15, but don't worry. You can come out of the theater and get that fucking refilled. Well, then COVID happened. They're like, well, you can't do that anymore because of COVID restrictions. It's not clean or whatever. And they nixed the whole free refill thing. Well, guess what? COVID's over now. Still no refills on popcorn. Yet now the popcorn bucket is $4 more than it used to be. So I think you're going to more for half the popcorn.
Well, they also
going to see movies.
Yeah, they did have to, to the theater's defense, and I, don't like defending them necessarily because everything's overpriced. They're not making money. I hope the ticket sales we just talked about show that because there's so many less people going to the theater, they have to make that up somewhere.
Well,
and they're not
100%
making
correct.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say because for years, even before COVID, all the things that everybody have complained about the movies, they're all the studio's fault.
Mm-hmm.
They're all the studio's fault. Theaters were running with next to nothing as far as money because they'd have to pay in rental fees. Plus they give over X amount of the ticket sales. And up until COVID, those ticket sales, especially for movies from Disney and stuff, would be 70-80% of opening weekend. That's insane. So that's why you got sticky floors because they can't afford to hire anybody to clean them. That's why the projectors suck because they can't afford anybody to pay attention to them all. That's why concessions are so high because that's the only way they're making any money. And then they're paying rent and the two people they can afford to have on staff. It is. It's all the studio's fault. And now you compound that with movies that nobody wants to see. Right? That's the other problem here. And theaters learned during COVID, and some people laughed at me when I said flat out, studios are going to learn real quick here that they need theaters a hell of a lot more than theaters need them. And it may sound weird, but they found out that's true because guess what? Theaters made it just fine on showing sporting events, concerts, older movies. They didn't need any new movies. People still went to see this stuff. I know they had a drive-in out here with Garth Brooks and Fleetwood Mac showings out here, and you would think there was a concert.
But I watched Back to the Future, and the theater was packed. Back to the Future 1 in the theater last year, and the theater was packed.
Yeah, our local theater does retro movie days.
I love your theater. Yeah,
it's $5 a ticket, and they show awesome movies. I love going to that.
I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark twice in the last couple of years at our theater.
Yeah, I don't even think it's the prices so much because I still say I stand by it. Even though, yes, it's a bit of a chunk to pay, $10-20 to go see a movie by yourself or, more than that with a family, it's still the cheapest thing you can do with a family or on a date.
Well, for $10 a month at Cinemark, you get a free ticket every single month for $10 a month. $10 a month.
Go ahead, Culture. Club. Go ahead. Culture's hand up was first, and then Odin.
But the impact, the impact is worse for theaters because of the brick and mortar location expenses that have gone up, and yet they do not get additional compensation or consideration when it comes to the film release because they're negotiating these leasing prices for each of these films, and unfortunately, there are fewer films because there's fewer studios, and they're only making tent poles. I mean, there are very few mid-level films. I know Odin speaks about this all the time. There's very few mid and lower tier films make it to theaters outside of horror because you're not seeing that anymore. You're not seeing that $60 million picture we just got one, No Hard Feelings, and that was, believe it or not, a breath of fresh air for the theaters because maybe it's not doing great, but it's another film people can go see at the same time. You've got these tentpoles people are ignoring.
Right. I mean, there's films out there like Alex and I, we're both big fans of the new Extraction movie on Netflix.
Yeah.
That movie should have been seen.
I agree with you.
In a theater.
I agree with you.
It probably would have cost $30 million to make or something. They said, I don't know, but I guarantee you that movie would have made $250, $300 million in the theater just on Hemsworth's pull alone. You know,
actors
silly.
don't have as much pull these days. I mean, other than Cruise, and ultimately, it's more so because of the films he's in and what he's doing, rather than just himself. I mean, I think it would have done well. I don't know if it would have done that well, but.
And then we get movies. Just real quick, I'm going to put my 2 cents into this. As a guy, I have 3 kids, and they're all of the age that I can take them to the movies now. I went and took them to the Mario movie as soon as I heard that it was like non-woke, non-nonsense, like actually good for kids to watch.
Good. Yeah.
I took my whole family to that thing. I spent $150 easily taking them, getting concessions, taking all the kids to the tickets, getting the big DFX video thing, whatever. And I probably would have done it 2 or 3 times easily. The day it came out on video, I bought it on video for like $30. I was like, yep, buy it. It's good. They watch it every day. So like, there's still, if movies are good, people will show up. That's the thing.
Build
like,
it.
That's the problem, though. We're getting films that are coming out here right now that are either remakes, rehashes, redos, reduxes, whatever you want to call it. And everyone is sick of hearing the same interpretation done in a different way of the same story, but it's then forwarded to you in such a way that they think you're, as people say, you're retarded. You're going to like this because we put this billboard person in front because of either their skin color, their identity, their gender identity, or because their sexuality, or they're male, female, a toaster. It doesn't matter. That's what they're going with. Like, that's the whole with the loss of touch of humanity, right? Hollywood lives in a different organization, a different world, a different, let's say, Kurtzman timeline than normal people in society that want one thing: escapism, to forget their job, forget the daily work they've had for the last few days, relax, spend time with the family, make bonds with your family, and have something that is safe not just for you but for your kids. And that's where the family environment is dying with this, because you're getting either lectured or you're being told you're a bad person because you didn't like what they gave you.
But Steven, you need, and you're 100% right, but you need mid-level films, mid-budget films.
Yeah, I agree.
That are going to draw those kind of audiences.
We need to fall back culture on like back to cheesy 80s horror flicks, and
that's
like
the studio side of things. Yeah, you need to be able to feed the monster with teenagers, doing the horror films. But no, look at what we've had that's been a hit over the last few years: Spider-Man: No Way Home, Avatar, Top Gun, Mario. Just a few random things. Outside of that, almost everything else has been either a flop or has underperformed. This year is a prime example of that. But families,
let me, Tom, real quick, let me give the floor to Culture. He's been trying to say something.
No, all I want to say is, but the studios have surrendered the mid-level to the streaming services because it's what he said and what he says all the time. They're not making it's Netflix that's making this. It's Amazon that's making this. They're not making it to theaters. So you're literally have surrendered a whole bunch of films, a whole bunch of scripts, a whole bunch of opportunities to these streaming services. Not just because you don't want to compete, but because you think you're above it. And that's just not the way the movie business used to work. We had a year where there was 900 films released into theaters.
That's a problem.
How many are we having released into theaters this year?
Yeah. And Culture, do you think in the future they would push a model? Let's look at Netflix as a prime example. Let's say there's movie night, but we're not going to theaters no more. You're buying your tickets to get a movie premiere on Netflix or a streaming service. That could be an ultimate future.
They've tried to do that a few times, and it's a logistic thing. And we're getting closer to that kind of a model. But at the end of the day, the studios need a big egg at the front end of this thing to be able to make it worth the kind of money. And this is the thing, going back to what you just said, 900 movies a year. That'd be fine if 850 of them movies were mid-level to low-budget movies. The problem is most of the movies that are coming out are huge budgeted films. Little Mermaid, Flash, Indiana Jones. What are the 3 main problems with these movies? Is they all cost over $200 to $300+ million. And they're not going to even make it back at the box office at the end of the day. That is not an economic model that you can live by. It used to be something you could do because, okay, let's say a movie does okay at the box office. It has 2 or 3 more chances at life on home video, HBO, and television. Those things don't matter anymore. They've killed the ancillary market. It's their own fault. Not only are they putting inferior products in the theaters, they're not putting anything out there that people want to watch or buy. You just said it yourself. You bought Mario the day it came out. That's probably one of the few movies you've bought in the last few years the day it came out because it's the only thing that you know that your kids enjoy. I mean, talk about the money factor. Look, I don't think it's any different than when I was a kid because I grew up on, I would guess, a medium income family. Going to the movies was a luxury we didn't have very often except for the budget cinema. And the budget cinema, that's where my mom would dump me off for $3. I'd go see a movie, you know, and then she'd come pick me up 2 hours later, me and my buddies. You know, and we go see the same movie all weekend, but it was also a movie that was going to be out on video in 2 months. You know what I mean? So it's like we were used to this kind of idea, and movies had a longer life. When a studio used to release an average of 15 to 20 movies a year, and only 2 to 4 of those movies were generally considered tentpole features. Now they're doing that every single month. We're getting a tentpole movie every weekend. People get burnt out on this shit.
Well,
I think that was the biggest part of it.
They only last a few weeks in a month in theater or whatever. Like you already have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse up for pre-order on Vudu.
Yeah.
Which means that, all right, well, in the next week or two tops, this movie is going to be dropped into our laps on home release.
Let me draw.
The movie came out a month ago.
Let me draw your attention to this, Brian. Speaking to that, let me draw your attention to the fact that 2019, you still had giant theatrical release windows. In fact, Disney kept extending the release window for the Rinse of Soybeans at the very end because they wanted it to eke out $1 billion. So they just left it in theaters forever, you know. And so what you're seeing now is that they really are stuck with that. They're still stuck in the idea of this walled garden streaming services that Tom is referring to. That we're driving all these pictures, these films, whatever you want to call them, to these streaming services as quickly as possible because they realized what they could there, and then they wanted to kind of sell it to themselves for their walled garden. But you can't make money moving money from one pocket to the other, and that's the thing that is driving me crazy. Because if you look at the multi-billion dollars in money that, let's say, Disney, for example, has dumped into content that they haven't recovered, then the initial setup and all the other expenses associated with building the platform out, setting up all and negotiating all the deals for distribution globally, they've spent over $13 billion. They have yet to even sniff getting close to replacing. It's absolutely insane. I mean, you're looking at over $3 billion in content in the last couple of years alone at Disney. They're spending exorbitant amounts of money with zero to show for it. And then they bring in these films that supposedly they sell to themselves. There's no money there. This is a giant hole, and they all should have just seen that coming, like most of us here, and just left it alone. You know, you have 2 or 3 streamers. You know, for Amazon, it's just a value add. It doesn't. It's not really it doesn't make them any money. And Netflix is the only one that's really viable. And it took them how long to become profitable with that model?
Right. Hey, so that being said, I wanted to shift to Odin real quick. With how much are they predicting that Indy is going to underperform here?
Going into the weekend, the film was projected to get $140 million worldwide. Right now, it seems to be tracking, at least domestically, it's tracking just about where they were expecting it to do. They don't know whether it's going to just completely fail today or tomorrow. But with that money, with the $140 million, I've been kind of going through looking at movies, and most movies on average, so just on the average, tends to make about a third, like especially global releases tend to make about a third of their entire box office in the first opening weekend if they have a full release. And so let's say that this does average numbers. That means that this has a $400 to $500 million ceiling, and this movie needs to make at least $750 to maybe $900 million to break even. So we're looking at 200 plus easy of a financial failure for Disney, which is in addition to the 200 plus million flop in Elemental and all the other films that they've lost. But one interesting point I was seeing in the box office as far as the coverage since April, right, since Evil Dead Rise, so the entirety of the summer that we've had so far that we just got into July, only 3 films have actually made money. Have actually made profits. Evil Dead Rise made a little bit of profit. Then you have Guardians, which made a little bit of profit. And now you have Spider-Verse. And those are the only films that have actually made their money back and made profit. So that's a lot of films, mid-level and big, that are losing.
We had you could add Megan to that earlier in the year. That was the only other movie that
earlier in the year. I was saying from April.
Yeah. Otherwise, no, you're right. Even Scream underperformed, which is a horror film. Technically, it had a nice opening weekend, but then it fell off a cliff. But you're not wrong. And I think the other thing is, and to pivot this back to Indiana Jones some more, the timeline between how long these movies have to play is dying out, right? Movies used to have a 2-3 year lifespan. Yeah. You just brought it up earlier, Brian. Spider-Curse is going to be on video on demand here in the next few weeks.
Yep.
It's going to be on video already in the next month or so. They don't even have Spider-Curse 3 done from what I've been hearing. So this is a problem. They're supposed to have this movie out in March. I'm hearing it's going to get delayed like by a whole nother year or two because it's not done. And they're rushing themselves into a bunch corner.
Of animators too,
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
There is something I want to ask. I don't know if this makes sense, but the way you guys are describing 900 million movies, right? You're saying all that. It sounds like they've progressed into the form where they think the movie industry is a TikTok video, and they think their audience is just sliding through every film, and that's what's going on. They're just
$200 million TikTok videos.
But it makes sense, right? They're trying to go for the quick please, but the problem is their product isn't a quick please. It's just okay. We put this much money into it, so eventually people will think, hey, if we put this much money into it, it's going to be a good TikTok video, and people are just constantly swiping because it's not filling the entertainment void. So you're just seeing burnt money everywhere while everyone's sitting there going, "Oh, that was a good TikTok movie. That's great. Let's do this again."
Yeah, I've got it's 2.5 hours plus.
Yeah. Oh my god, this movie's way too long. I've got a couple of super chats I need to get through. 199. Billy Zane should be cast as Lex Luthor. He's a bit old, but I like the idea. Billy Zane's never a bad thing. And then 199. $5 from Fluffy Panda. Don't forget, theaters were and have been forced to keep showing bad Disney movies for 3 or 4 extra weeks, basically having an empty theater for that time.
That's fine.
Is that
something I talked about? That when I worked at AMC, I got to see like some of the emails that we would get from the people who'd be booking the chain. And what's crazy, I don't think a lot of people realize, especially prior to the pandemic, that Disney basically would say, all right, you get to show our movie, but you need to put this movie in 3D. You need to put it at this, like you need to have one premium 3D show time. You need to have one midday premium. And it's like, if you don't do it, then you don't get the movie. So you had to go through all of these specific rules if you wanted to actually be able to have the pleasure and the graciousness to show a Disney movie. And this was for other studios too, but Disney was by far the worst.
And who this is hardest on? It's not so much hard on AMC's because they've got the room and the capacity to
single
handle
theaters.
I was just going to say, because I talked to, I know this lady who owns this. It's actually not a single theater, but it's a smaller. It's a video store upstairs, and then down in the basement she has like 3 screens. Right. And every single time she says it never fails. Disney demands that big screen, and then they also want it in 3D, so nobody wants to fucking see it.
Yep.
Pardon my French, but it's the same thing. Because I went there one time to see a movie, and she's like, we've got, I think it was Black Panther playing in the big screen, 3 people in the theater, and I think we were going to see Wreck-It Ralph 2. And she was complaining because she's like, yeah, more people want to see Wreck-It Ralph 2, but since Black Panther's the bigger movie in 3D or whatever it is, they made me flip-flop theaters on it. And then she was also complaining because of the speeds that she has in the internet and the crap that she has to go through, that like it takes her 4 hours to move a movie from one spot to the other because of the transfer time. Yeah.
Gigantic files. And then also like there's a theater in New Orleans where, hometown, called the Britannia, and it's a nice little like single run theater. But I remember they would always talk about how if they ever got a Disney movie, like normally throughout the year, they'll play one movie like one day and then another movie the other day. So it'll be kind of like on a different schedule, or they'll have the movies at different times throughout the day. If they have a Disney movie, Disney would not ever allow them to show anything else. So they had to have it for 2 to 3 weeks, nothing but nonstop showtimes just for that movie. They were not allowed to show anything else during that time.
Wow. Yeah, I worked at a small theater called Captain Blood's here in SoCal.
Oh.
When I was young, I worked there for like 2 years. I started off as a projector tech, and then I was the manager. And this was right around the time where digital started to become a thing. And I remember the theater owner complaining about the exorbitant cost of having to, in order to support the digital movies from these bigger studios, he had to get a bunch of new equipment. And they would come in on these drives, and it was such a pain in the ass to load. And we would have to preload the entire thing ahead of time in order for it to play like consistently. And when we finally did load it, if there was any problem whatsoever, we had to move everything to it. So we would have another theater ready to go just in case there was a problem, so we can move people over, because it would take 20 minutes or whatever to get this thing loaded properly.
Yep. With the
massive
keys,
pain in the ass.
If you got the wrong keys and then they weren't responding to you. Oh yeah.
Massive pain in the ass. And it was funny because he was in this business for like 30 years, like clockwork. And the studio is what eventually put this dude out of business. And it was just their rules, their regulations, the change in format. It just made it impossible to run the business at a profit. and he was running, and he only had like four screens in his small theater. It was such a massive problem. Digital has a lot of benefits, but oh man,
I'm not a fan of it. I prefer 35 millimeter. And maybe
I also
just 'cause
prefer
I'm a film snob, but
I also prefer the act of getting to cut the trailers in. That was like my favorite part of the job.
I just
Right?
missed out on it. I started
Well,
the week or two after my theater went completely digital, and I was
Dude,
like,
I still got a crate of like these little tiny trailer.
I did
reels.
take those before. Yeah, I took.
I got
some.
a crate of them, dude. I don't even know what trailers I have, but all I
you
know
know
is
what?
when I
You can
left,
sell those on eBay. People, there's a whole
Really?
there's a whole.
I
market
have
for
like
that
100
shit,
of them.
dude.
So when
Oh,
Captain
God,
Blood was
yes.
going out of business, I stopped in to say hi. He was like, "Yeah, take whatever you want." I went in the
Well-
back and I loaded up every trailer reel I
Pull
could
a U-Haul
find,
up,
bro.
man.
Oh yeah, those are worth a few bucks on eBay. But no, just to bring it back around to indie. So how many of these theaters now are showing indie on 5 screens to empty freaking theaters? Empty theaters. Like there's nobody
been
going to see
crazy.
this movie.
So when I bought my tickets for me and V, we're going on Monday with a couple of our friends, and I spent, it was like $100. They were like $18 a pop, but it was a DFX theater. when I chose my seats, there was only like 7 sold so far. And like, granted, it's a Monday night, but still, this is the opening weekend for
Dude, it's
Indiana
4th of
Jones
July
In
weekend.
Vegas.
in Vegas, and there was only like 7 or 8 seats.
And this
sold.
is a big theater for
Big
movie
theater.
going.
Yeah.
It's
It's the
the
Galaxy.
same
it's-
thing with Madison and IMAX. It was only like 7-8 seats sold for most of the major showings.
But the
It's-
the pre-sales have been predicting that this thing was going to tank pretty hard from
Yeah.
the very beginning.
It's not getting reviewed well either. So
Well, yeah.
Pretty much everything about it.
Real quick, a $20 super chat from Bob Dorsey. $20, my God, that's amazing. Is it possible to film a fight scene without a
Right?
cameraman having an epileptic seizure while filming?
No. I think he's having the seizure, and it keeps causing the seizure.
The worst trend.
Oh, I
It's,
got a perfect example of that. I don't know what's going on, but I think they're trying to keep like what they're assuming is a bunch of ADD audience members from losing interest, because even in dramatic movies, the camera cuts are so fast. I was watching Taken 3 last night. God forbid this movie. And I'm sitting there and they're having a conversation. Liam Neeson and his daughter, who is either she's 18 or 38. I don't even know. And they're having a conversation, and the camera is the cuts are cutting between like shots of him, her, this angle, that angle, his hands, the knife, his cutting back to her face, the car outside, and like it was like 2
That's
seconds.
a sign that they had to cut around a bunch of shit, probably. Yeah.
It was so nuts. I'm sitting there. I'm about to have a seizure because it's cutting so quick, and I'm recognizing that a lot of new movies, their camera cuts are so quick. As someone who borrows a lot of footage online for our videos, it's very hard sometimes to find 3 seconds of just one shot. Go back though 25 years, and you have entire minutes
Long takes.
long takes of people talking. It's sort of crazy. It's like we don't have enough attention span to watch one person talking for longer than 4 seconds. So you just got cut.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of that came from like the shot from the hip action films of the 90s, and they started doing the camera shake thing because it would help like hide bad
choreography.
choreography and not enough
Stuntmen,
production
yeah.
value and all that kind of stuff. It's just become a style now, and I hate it. I hate it with a passion. I miss when we used to have guys like Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee and stuff, to where they would actually try, and they would work with the cameramen and say, look, film it from this angle. That way it's going to be the best angle to get what I'm doing, and this wide shot here, and this, and that way everybody sees what they're doing. Even Rocky films, right? Like Sly would go through and literally script out every punch so that they could practice it over and over and over again, so it could look real and could be filmed in a way that people could see what's going on. I hate not being able to see what's going on.
All we have is
I agree.
Cruise now. I feel like all we have is Cruise doing that.
It is.
That's all we have.
We do. And here's the thing, guys. We are talking about Indiana Jones 5, except we're not. We're talking about better things that are better edited, that
Well,
are better put together. That
Indiana
have-
Jones is all shot on a green screen and it's all CGI anyway.
I think
This
it's time
comment-
to go ahead.
This comment just made me laugh. I bet if who made Maverick? Was it Paramount? If Paramount Plus wanted to be able to make more money next week and just throw the gauntlet down in front of Indy, I bet you they would make more money if they put Maverick back in theaters. And
You're probably not wrong.
They could spend like $1 million on marketing for it. They could make huge.
I would go. I'd go see it again. I saw it many times on the big screen.
That'd just be the biggest slap in the face to Disney. It'd be hilarious.
But again, I mean, if you go out and look at your local theaters, and I'm looking at today, Saturday, and first of all, I've seen the pattern buy or the ghost seats or whatever you want to call them. That's those are the marketing seats that go out to radio stations, stuff like that. I've seen that. That's definitely happening. But then tonight's show, 7:30 p.m., because in the biggest large format that there is in that particular theater, it's got 500 seats. There's less than 20 people that have pre-purchased their tickets for the 7:30 p.m. showing in the massive theater.
Wow.
And I'm going, crazy. What is happening right now? What is happening? There were 39 people I was in that same theater on Thursday, and there were 39 people in 500 seats. You have 17% of your seats taken. That's it.
Wow. That's sick.
All right, before we move on to the next subject, we've got a $20 super chat just to say good morning. Thank you so much. That is incredibly generous. Good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you.
One quick thing. I did notice that the hyper premium theaters were fuller for me because I saw Indiana Jones twice, and the 40X theaters were almost always sold out. Also for the Flash, there was no one in the theater the second time I saw the Flash.
Yeah.
But the 40X theaters were full up.
If people are going to spend so much money on a ticket, I think the mindset is, okay, I need to go see it on the biggest thing possible because I might as well get some worth out of it. And also, I was looking up the numbers previously because I was wondering, like, are any of y'all on the AMC A list? Because I am. Because that was also something I just honestly don't know the answer to of how. I'm assuming the studio, still gets the same cut if you buy your ticket through the AMC A list versus anything else. But it is interesting to me just to think about how that has an impact on this, because a lot of people in your theater, if you're a local AMC or Cinemark has their own program, Regal has their own program. How many of those people in those big format screens where you can get that included on a subscription service are there with that versus paying, the full price for it?
I'm on the Cinemark Platinum thing or whatever, but I actually choose to watch is it AMC? I think it's AMC, the 40X. I think it's better than the Cinemark D box, and it's the same price even with membership.
I don't know the difference between that stuff. So
Well, the 40X is literally a ride. Like you and three other people,
and you're like moving
and
around.
like the chairs are moving, and there's water spitting at you, and there's scents. It sounds insane. It sounds ridiculous, but I watched it with Black Adam, and I swear to God, I looked to my left, and my kid was like,
Dwayne Johnson can spit on you, and you can feel the.
My kid who's like 45 pounds is bouncing around and screaming in glee. It's like a ride.
This is when I feel.
I can't wait till 4D XXX.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. When you're watching the movie, and all of a sudden,
everybody that espouses the 40X, I'm thinking, if you really wanted to wreck people's day, in that little water line, you could definitely wreck people's day if it is incorporated with something else.
I do not trust what's being spit.
Yeah, it's a great way to have a bacterial infection spread quickly.
It's not like you're getting wet. It's not like you're watching The Notebook and it's actually raining on you. It's not like it's a fun time. Now, do I recommend it for watching a dramatic film or a comedy? No, you gotta watch something that has Top Gun. I saw Top Gun Maverick in 40X, and it was amazing.
Right. That's probably
Brian. We're not in June anymore. You don't have to be the representation referencing The Notebook.
Jesus. My bad. All right.
Force
of habit.
It sounds better than our ripoff. We have a budget level IMAX screen at the local AMC. Like we have a big AMC that has the IMAX, but then we have the local one that's right next to me. It's called Big D.
Oh boy.
Literally, it's called Big D.
Oh no.
All right. V, go ahead and pull up the next banner for me.
I don't. Which one are we doing?
We're doing fan campaigns.
Wait. I don't. Did we finish talking about it?
No, we didn't even talk about Indy. I'm still waiting to talk about Horseface.
We're done with Indy. Nobody cares about
Disney.
Indiana Jones. Fan campaigns. So this one is actually close to our heart, especially with Brian being here with the Star Trek Legacy stuff. But the question is, how effective are fan campaigns at resurrecting canceled shows or sparking movie sequels? I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in there. First thing that comes to mind is Firefly for me. Back in the day, the fans got together and just demanded more Firefly, and they got themselves a movie. I know recently Alita Battle Angel had a huge following, especially on Twitter. They have, hashtag Alita Army or something like that. And I believe they're likely going to be getting a sequel to that movie as well. Of course, we have Brian here and Shane who lead the way on the Star Trek Legacy fan campaign. I personally think they're super effective if you can get enough buzz around it. And even another example, too, is Zack Snyder's Justice League, too. That was 100% fans just screaming at the top of their lungs on social media for a Zack Snyder Justice League. So I think they're super effective, and I love seeing fan bases of all kinds getting together and just like, hey, we want more of this, and the studio's actually delivering on that. I think it's great. So I'm going to start with Brian, since you guys are fighting for Legacy. What's the word on that? How is the fight going?
Yeah, so we have over 60,000 signatures now for Star Trek Legacy. Specifically, ours was Make Star Trek Legacy with Terry Metalis.
Mm-hmm.
And over 60,000. This is our third campaign. So our first campaign was Revive Stargate, the Stargate franchise with Brad Wright. We got almost 40,000 signatures on that one. And then we did a thing for Orville, which was like, I guess, successful because we technically got the 3rd season, and we just sort of morphed it from the 3rd season into the 4th season to keep it running. But that campaign, I guess, was successful in the sense where we got a 3rd season when we were up on the air whether that was going to happen. That's 30,000 signatures. But our biggest one for sure is the Star Trek Legacy one with over 60,000. It's now been featured in multiple proper news stories like Variety and stuff. And it's running, but it's definitely slowed down. We've noticed that the Star Trek Legacy hype, the petition, everything has slowed way down. Mm-hmm. So I hope that it's successful. We do communicate still with Terry Metalis. And he hasn't given us much lately on this. He keeps saying that he's working on something for Disney. But his contract is still good with CBS if they actually pull the trigger. So we'll see. Maybe that happens. I'm not sure. I'm with you. I like the fan campaigns. It's just so rare they actually work. I remember the Stargate one. I was actually young. I was in my early 20s when that started happening again. And I remember people were like, we need to mail in tissue boxes to MGM or the Science Fiction Channel or whatever it was. Because the character
of Daniel Jackson
was always blowing his nose. And there was a moment in the first episode where Jack O'Neill, played by Richard D. Anderson, sends a tissue box through to make sure that the person on the other side is Daniel Jackson. And so that became a thing. And to be fair, that campaign wasn't to continue the series. It was actually to bring Daniel Jackson back, because Daniel Jackson had been, the actor that played him had been let go after his agent asked for just way too much money. And for an entire season, there was someone who had replaced the Daniel Jackson character. So that the campaign was Save Daniel Jackson. I think it was SaveDanielJackson.com. And they sent so many tissue boxes in that they actually went back to, I'm forgetting his name right now, to that actor, and they brought him back after that season was done at his requested rate. And he became really he should have been the whole time, pretty much the face of the series. He was definitely in every episode from then on out. And I think they revived his character like 3 times. He died so many times.
Yeah, he famously died a ton in that show.
Right. And then he also went on to be in a few episodes of Atlantis. He pushed the spinoff through, and he was sort of the driving force of the series for a long time. So that campaign was very successful because they didn't want him to come back. They even went as far as unequivocally killing his character in the show, like showing his death right? Showing the fact that he's in the afterlife, it's over. But but because that campaign was so successful, they did bring Daniel Jackson back, and it was a little convoluted the way they did it, but fans didn't care. They were like, I don't care, bring him back.
But I would suggest that fan campaigns are very effective. I mean, we have several examples of them. You brought up the Firefly one, which I think is the one that I, was most heavily involved in. But do you know the other way to be effective about that is to stop supporting the crap that doesn't include the things that you like anymore.
Right.
So, the fact that, and again, I mean, I say this as somebody who has to watch crap to tell other people it's crap. But, at the same time, the fewer people that watch, the lesser versions of Star Trek or the lesser versions of these things, I think that also sends a message as well. That's the same kind of effectiveness as a lot of these fan campaigns. But there are certain things I want to see. I mean, I would like to see an entirely new Star Trek show that is Terry Metalis, because from beginning to end, then it's not an entire mess. Because that's the only problem with season 3 of Picard, is that it was already a convoluted beginning.
Right. He had to write around all the convoluted nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you. I got to add on to that, though. Like, it's not just not watching the stuff that you don't like, because when it comes to streaming services, this is not television anymore, right? Like, audience means less than subscribers. So on network TV, if you don't watch it, they don't get viewers. Their ratings are whatever. They don't get advertisers. But now, you're going to keep your subscription, but not watch that. So there's a metric there that matters, but
I think you're finding
paid.
Yeah, but I think you're finding that metric failing when it comes to the dollars and cents of it all. And you've seen the example of how it's failing, because guess what? They write off crappy things. Look at what happened with Willow. Willow could have been a good show, but it wasn't. So instead, nobody watched it. And guess what happened? They wrote it off as a tax thing, and it'll never return. You'll never see it again.
That never should have been made to begin with.
Didn't they remove it off of Disney Plus?
Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone.
Completely gone.
Same with Prodigy. Star Trek Prodigy was removed from Paramount.
Wow.
Which interesting is a lot of fans actually like Prodigy, but not enough people watched it.
Do they remove it off the streaming service because of like
it can't be shown again. It can never be in public view again. It's gone.
But here's the thing with Prodigy, though, is they've got a season 2 out there. It's complete, right? Am I wrong there? I heard season 2 was like in the can.
Yeah, I heard something
and
about
they canceled the show.
I also heard that when they removed it, and they removed it from the platform, the physical copies of that on Amazon sold out like in minutes. So people really did like that show, but it didn't have enough viewers for them to continue to pay for it, I guess. And they knocked it off so quickly. It must have been for taxes or something. So I could think.
I'm going to pose a question real quick, and then I want to take it to Odin and then Tom. Do you guys feel like back in the day, 90s, early 2000s sci-fi shows, we had fan campaigns like Stargate and stuff like that? That was more based off just like fans wanting a good show to come back. Whereas I feel like today, studios look down on these kind of campaigns mostly because of political reasons, because they feel like the part of the fan base that's asking for these shows to return are of a certain group. All these are the ones who are conservative or whatever, or these ones are the liberal ones. We'll give them what they want or whatever. What do you think about modern campaigns being kind of seen in this like political field?
Yeah.
Odin.
No, I think that absolutely is something that happens, right? Is there is always the perception, it's always a false one too, right? That they will try to write off certain fan groups to say, oh, it's been taken over by the right-wing zealots. And ultimately, you look at the data, you look at what's going on, you're like, no, that's not true at all. Many of them happen to maybe have more conservative-leaning ideas, but that's not necessarily what you're portraying this to be. So I think that they oftentimes can use that as an excuse to try to like do away with it. But then also like in the general concept of these, fan desires, sometimes it can work and it can work pretty well. But in the case of Serenity, I love Firefly and I love Serenity. I got to see that with my brother it was around the time we were dealing with Hurricane Katrina. So that was like a really great bonding film for my little brother and I when I was a junior in high school. And it was something that, I don't know, that was a weird image there. But ultimately that film didn't really make anything at the box office.
Well,
right?
to be fair though, the way they released it was super sketchy, right?
Oh yeah.
So like they released it early for some charity thing, and then again a few months later for some other charity thing. by the time they actually got to a full release, half the audience that were going to automatically go watch it had already seen it at one of those earlier releases, and it didn't count toward the full box office because the other 2 releases were for charity or something. Which I love charity, but you're saying, oh, the movie wasn't successful because it didn't make money. That's what a lot of the pundits were saying. But hold up, half the audience had already seen it in 2 earlier releases.
Yeah.
What were you expecting to happen?
But it was still,
What I wonder about this kind of stuff is what makes a studio decide which fan movements they're going to actually listen to, because Warrior Nun, not a great show. We reviewed it on the podcast and it was not good, and then they went into season 2, ignored it, and it got canceled. And now all of a sudden, Warrior Nun, out of the blue, just announced that they're getting the season 3 directly because of a fan movement. The fans want Warrior Nun season 3. How is Warrior Nun into season 3 when there's way better shows out there that got canceled?
Where was the petition for that?
Yeah, I never even knew
where
about
was the
this
campaign at? I never heard of it. I was watching that show
random Twitter hashtag maybe.
The Alita army is way more vocal on social media than Warrior Nun fans.
How about Star Trek?
So
Star Trek.
I got attacked by the Alita army at one point,
Star Trek Legacy,
or at least by a couple of members of the Alita
million,
army.
Had over 7 million people hashtagging Star Trek Legacy during Picard season 3.
Yeah,
like what? I don't understand. That must be an excuse. The fans really want it. We're looking around like, where's the fans?
Where? What fans?
Well, also because the Elite Army stuff, that's a good example because there was a huge, huge groundswell of that several years ago. And again, I know many of them are still active, but it's interesting how all of a sudden now randomly there's whisperings that we might be finally getting it. And it's like, oh yes, now that Disney has acquired Fox, that originally was one of the distributors on it. Okay, I don't want a Disney version, Disney involved version of a sequel. Like I would love a sequel if everyone creatively is the same, but even if you say, oh well, this person has full creative control, if you're under Disney, you don't have full creative control.
Tom, what's your thoughts on this subject, buddy?
He's currently causing he's starting a fan campaign against Rogan's Ninja Turtles.
Tom started watching Warrior, whatever.
Right. Unless you're James Cameron. James Cameron's like the only person that probably has full creative control of anything. It seems.
I'll pivot to our.
As an Alita Battle Angel cultist, I am very happy that they're going to be coming out, hopefully with a new movie very soon. I do find it kind of fun that if I merely mention the word Alita in any tweet or anything, I instantly get reactions from Alita Battle Angel 3 people. It's kind of cool. It's just, and I've never really felt like I got the crazies like with the Snyder cultists.
I got attacked.
You know what I mean? I know people get blasted by these people,
and I like the movie too. So
yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to a second movie. I hope they make a bunch of them, but there's just something about that movie I like.
You though, if it's ran by Disney, bro,
that's the problem.
It's Cameron and
Robert Rodriguez.
Rodriguez. I think those two together.
Rodriguez recently made a movie that.
So what if Cameron's not involved? What if they're like Alita Beta Angel? Right.
We'll see.
From James Mangold.
No.
I'm gonna pass it to Culture because he's got something pretty interesting pulled up from Forbes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I pulled the article because I had never heard of this campaign for Warrior Nun. So apparently, the fan campaign to save Warrior Nun was wild. They bought billboards across from Netflix's headquarters. They came up with charts to show viewership demand, trying to prove Netflix made the wrong call. They made up hashtags to get the series trending in some capacity, essentially every day since it was canceled. So yeah, that's how they went about doing it. It doesn't say anything about like one of those, normal sites where you put up a poll or whatever you call that, a petition thing.
Change.me.org.
Yeah, but it's, I think that's quite interesting because I never heard of this show. I never saw a hashtag. I wouldn't even know that it trended. Odin's probably looking at change.org right now.
So Brian, what you need if you want to get Star Trek Legacy going, you need to buy a billboard next to Paramount Lot and just freaking plastered that thing all over the place.
I
And
guess
speaking-
so. What is the name of this thing? It's called Warrior what?
Warrior
None.
Nun.
Warrior
Not to be
Nun.
confused with Warrior Man Bun that's coming out as a sequel.
Yeah. but I'm
I thought
looking
you
at
guys were
that.
covering
And
that other Warrior thing.
I would say if I were gonna campaign for anything, I think I would campaign for Alita Battle Angel sequel.
Yeah.
I think.
For sure.
Right on.
But I did
So
make
weird.
I made a
It's
point in the private chat about how what Robert Rodriguez was the main mind behind it, and James Cameron of course too. But
Yeah.
again, under Disney, what did Robert Rodriguez give us?
Yeah.
Book of-
I
Book of
heard-
Boba Fett.
I heard for Book of Boba Fett, he was mostly just hanging out in his trailer, getting high, playing the guitar. He just was not on set whatsoever. He was just
Under
like, I'm not
Disney?
doing- Yeah, I'm just
But
not
under
doing this.
Disney. So
I got a
Yeah.
question. When was the last time Disney actually gave us something entertaining?
Oh, easy.
Mando
Every time they
season two?
fail. No, every time they fail, you guys get to make content. That's pretty much what they've been
I
giving.
mean,
you.
I get that, but like they own all this like amazing IP, and they can't
Yeah.
they can't edge out a single win here. And what
No.
the f is taking so long with X-Men? I don't get it. You've had
'Cause they can't
did you-
call
have
it
you-
X-Men.
Brian,
It's a problem. For
why
them.
can't they? They own it. They own
Listen,
X-Men.
Why
They
not? They
can
call the
now.
cartoon X-Men. They call the continuation of X-Men '97 is still called
Listen.
X-Men.
We're dealing with a scroll invasion right now, guys.
Oh my god!
And there's still
They look
there's-
like
listen,
pickle
and
ricks
there's
with
still-
ears, man.
There's still a giant celestial tipping the planet down in the South Pacific coming out
Never
of the
watched
ocean.
it. Never
So
watched it.
I don't know what's going on over there at Marvel, and I think culture just died a little bit inside.
Yeah.
X-Men.
Do we really want them to finish it? Do we really want them to put
No,
it?
the thing
Is
is,
that why? Is it because they can't call it X-Men? And this whole thing with the Secret
no, that's
Invasion.
bias.
Oh my god! I'm watching the Secret Invasion, and I'm like, do they not have money for actors? What is the problem with it?
The problem is culture came and backed me up on this because we were very excited a couple of years ago. The downfall was the fall of WandaVision. And from there, that is where everything stemmed to where
I
we
agree
are
with
now. WandaVision was the pretense of something
Yeah.
grand that they were paying attention, and now it's turned into the evolution of don't read these books, don't read the source material, do not follow something that has been around for decades because my protest sign says otherwise, my DEI says otherwise.
I
all of
actually
that
liked
stuff.
WandaVision. I know a lot of people
I
didn't.
did until they changed it.
Yeah.
I'm
They
having
ma- they Ralph Bonered it.
I'm having a fun
Ralph
time.
Bonered it.
I'm having a fun time with Secret Invasion just by counting the dollar store green masks that people are wearing in the background of all these scroll shots.
I
So,
can't. They look like Pickle Rick with pointy
Yeah,
ears.
they're really funny.
They're
really
so
funny.
bad.
Oh my
There's-
god!
the,
you guys-
the whole show is just bad and boring, and it's just
I don't see a lot of good on the horizon from
No.
any Disney studio. I don't see a lot of good on the horizon for a lot of these things. I mean, we're still in the before times as I watch the puppy fall asleep in a different position now.
four times.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at the rest of this year and not there we go. I'm looking at they're
There it
both out. I'm looking at the entire end through the end of the year of films that are going to underperform or hilariously flop or any number of other things. The only one that I have a hope for is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, which is just a few weeks away.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
Look,
watch for sure.
And just think about that.
I do have hopes.
Mission
for
Impossible
X-Men.
7.
I have very big hopes for X-Men.
And I'm looking forward to a seventh movie. I'm
The-
looking forward to the seventh movie. That's how good it is.
The weirdest thing about the whole thing with that is that that lunatic weirdo Tom Cruise is the only guy that can sell tickets right now.
Yeah.
So it's
Well, because he
It's very
treats
strange.
people. He
does.
like that. Do you guys see that video where he was like flying that I don't know, like Mustang or something? And
Yeah.
he says, "Thank you for allowing me the privilege of entertaining you," and then
Yeah.
he buzzes off. Like that's. I know the dude's a little nuts, right? Everybody
Yeah.
knows Tom Cruise is a little nuts, but when it comes to his audience, he knows who they are, he knows how to cater to them, and he knows how to appreciate them.
Yep.
Where all the other studios are like, "Here's our content, freaking eat it."
Yeah,
that-
eat it,
like, that's
eat it,
just not
you
what we
slam
want.
pigs.
Yeah,
You
you're
will
freaking
take whatever we
disgusting.
give you,
Tom Cruise over here like, here guys, thank you so much for watching my movie. Like that's polar opposite.
I gotta say, love it or hate it too. His practical, him always wanting to do practical effects is really a thing.
See, give it time. Theaters will go over a revamp, and what you're going to do is you're going to see, well, we got the far right theater, and then we got the far left theater, and you get to choose what movie you want to see based off whatever right or left you are. That's what's going to happen.
We're going to be plugged in with the Apple goggles and.
Oh yeah, we can all be scuba Steves in our own apartment.
Yeah, $3,500.
No one can afford.
Porn's going to look fantastic.
I want to play with them, but I would never buy.
In 10 years, it's gonna.
$3,500 for that stupid Pro headset. I was like,
in 10 years, an Android will be $100, and we'll.
I talked to somebody who used them already, and they were like, "Dude, my head felt like it was being microwaved because that thing was just so freaking power intensive."
Yeah. I mean, I talked to someone that used them and said they were really heavy, and you have to also carry a battery on your belt or something like that.
Probably, I was a very early adopter with like the Vive, right? So I was a very early adopter in VR.
Sorry. You used Vibes? What?
No, Vive. Vibe.
Keeps the good vibes rolling.
It's for Steam. But anyway, I was a very early adopter. And then I went out and early adopted the technology that made it wireless because it had this big long cable that was 3 cables wrapped together that was clunky. It got in your way. You'd trip. You'd break your nose. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. But so I got rid of that so that I could play in a 14 by 14 space that I could walk around and do stuff in VR, which is almost done.
No. I did the same thing.
I got to run. Take care, guys.
See you later, Tom.
Anyway,
go ahead.
So they had a wireless tech that came out for it, which I bought because I'm an idiot. And literally, it was microwaving my head because you had to put it up over the top, and you had to have a receiver on the bottom, and you were literally transmitting tons of data between the two places, melting your brain. I used that for 10 days and I wasted a boatload of money.
Hey, there's this new AR glasses called the Rokid Max or whatever, and they're pretty badass. Culture, you gotta check them out. They're affordable. They're not like a full VR experience. They're more AR, right? But they're really affordable. They're very lightweight, and it allows you to have like your extra screens and different AR options. It's called a Rokid Max, and they're pretty cheap.
I'll look it up because I've been looking at replacing everything with a Valve Index.
I had a Valve Index. The Valve Index is real clanky.
The Google Cardboard thing.
I'm telling you, the next thing I'm getting is the Rokid Max, and I like the way that they can operate on their own, or they can connect to your smartphone or your computer. You can work them with Steam, Xbox, whatever.
I was also the idiot that was one of the first people to buy the Google Glass, so you're looking at a freaking maroon.
You had one? I couldn't get them. I tried.
I've got one. You want it?
I'm gonna do my best Matthew Kadish impersonation here and
all right.
So it's time to wrap things up, guys. So I'm gonna do what Matthew does. I'm just gonna go around the room. I'm gonna go down to Odin. Odin, any final thoughts and what do you got going on, buddy?
Hey, Indiana Jones is going to lose a lot of money, and it's going to be hilarious. So tonight on my channel, OMB Reviews, I'll be doing a live stream talking about those numbers and updates on the projections, stuff like that. And yeah, it's always great being on. So thank you all again for having me.
Thank you very much, here, man. Culture Casino. Any last thoughts? And where can people find you? And what are you doing?
Indy is going to be the spectacular failure, and I'm less optimistic than Odin. It's going to lose $250 million. I mean, it may not get out of the 4s. I mean, it's going to be rough. But no, you can find me in a lot of places. I think I'm committed to a live stream tonight. Maybe 2. One of them I know for sure is on Sporking News Podcast. I don't know. I usually write it down.
It says 4 or 5.
Those guys are all right. I like Sporking.
And then I think I have 6 videos to record to get ahead for the week because I have actual real work to do this week. So it's going to be, but no, I'm grateful to be here. Every time I get an invitation, I jump at it if I can. And you guys are great. I really do hope that this show continues to grow because it's a good time.
Thank you for being here. I apologize. I'm still new at trying to host it. Vader had to take over. I'm not sure when to cut. Sorry.
It's okay. That's what YouTube does to me too. It's all good, man. Go on, Alex.
Steven, what do you have going on? And do you have any last thoughts? And where can we find you?
Do I actually get to, or am I going to wait for?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go.
ahead.
It's your
Okay,
floor is
I
yours.
feel like I'm being cultured right now. It's really weird.
Oh, wow. Wow.
What's coming up? Definitely not an election. Thank you, Indiana Jones. Wow, that's really big.
Wow.
That is
You
a
can find me
big
on my
talking
channel
head.
going through FF16, or you can
Wow.
find me anywhere you look at a Valiant Renegade or a WWE Pro video, because I'm their artist. Or you can find me here. Hopefully I can come back next year when they allow me to, after the restraining order. And it's been a fun time. And I'm also on Rumble, where yeah,
Wow.
give me your
Right
money.
on. Fat Steven, thank you for coming on, man. It was a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thanks,
Thank
Steve.
you for
Really,
starting
I
the
hope-
show
I
correctly.
hope, oh man, that was. I don't do anything right. It's always a mess. I'm terrified of it.
It's a pleasure. I got to actually
Yeah.
talk to Odin, not through Super Chat, and Culture's regretting having me on tomorrow. So it's going to be a
All
great
right.
day. So you guys are awesome.
It'll be fine.
You want me to put the
Popcast
meme up?
Brian. Popcast Brian.
What's up, yo?
Our shield for our June shield. How what do you got going on, buddy?
Yeah, so hopefully I can get this video done today. Shane gave me the audio last night, and it's going to be explaining the entire timeline change and how it's both a good thing and a bad thing. And I gotta tell you, you don't want to miss that video tomorrow morning, assuming I get it done, because Shane has a moment where he clearly sort of loses his mind, and he was like, "Cut that part out, bro. Let me redo that." I did not cut that shit out.
Yeah. That's a good editor right there.
So just remember that. So it's going to be good.
Right on.
Alex. Thank you for.
Thanks.
It's very nice.
Oh yeah.
So
Keep talking over each other. This is great.
Yeah, I know.
Good pod. Good pod.
we're usually a little tipsy when we do this. So
We were allowed to get drunk?
Yes.
well, yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead, man. Alex? What do we got going on this week? Tell us what's going on.
So because Kadish is gone, it's just going to be me and Matt Vader here producing the show on Tuesday, which is pretty exciting. I'm actually pretty excited about it. We're going to have some local friends of ours in the studio with us for our live stream on Tuesday, and we're going to be discussing Indiana Jones 5. We're going to go see it on Monday night, and then we're going to sit down and just have a roundtable discussion about it. It will be live streamed, so I hope you guys can be there. It'll be at 2 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesday. And we'll be in the studio with our friends talking about Indy 5 and discussing our thoughts, our take on it, and how bad it was. Maybe I heard the first 15 minutes isn't terrible. We'll see. We'll see. It'll be a fun discussion, though. I'm really looking forward to it. So I hope that we get the numbers that we get on Saturday come over to the Tuesday live stream, because
Yes,
that's my
please.
live stream. I'd love to see 200 plus people in there. That'd be great.
Culture, did you raise your finger?
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you guys need me to fly up there?
Sure.
All
Come
right.
on out. Come
Yeah.
on out.
You're within driving range. You're only 4 hours away.
Can you guys like underground railroad me out of Canada for that,
No.
please? Because it's like Canada. I'd rather watch Indy again than watch
you just stay
Canada.
up there. You just stay.
Oh,
up there.
thank
You're
you.
fine. Trudeau is he's busy putting his makeup on for his second run as blackface. It'll be fine.
Oh yeah, he'd be hired next by Disney to portray Aladdin,
All right.
the remake 3.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I will just say it's going to be weird talking about Indiana Jones on Tuesday without Kadish there, because he's the one that like writes these viral Twitters at the directors and things, and I think we're going to have to give him his own segment next week
Yeah.
when he's back to let him say his piece. And that being said, I just want to say if you haven't hit that join button to become a Salty Justice Warrior and you're new to the chat, please consider doing that. Check out our merch at saltynerdstore.com. You can get the Salty Nerds Warrior shirts, and I'm really good at selling this stuff. This is not my thing. So
Tag James Mangold in this video. Tag
yeah,
James Mangold.
yeah,
He reminds me of that Salvation Army
do
Santa.
some
There's
tweets and say the Salty Nerds say hi
We're right.
to, at Mangold, and tell him his movie sucks. So
I did.
tell him
He
tell him
never
it's from us.
replied.
Man, gold.
So that being said, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Thanks for being in our chat, all our members, all our super chats. I'm not going to do what Kadish does and read them all, because I've deleted all the stuff already. So there's that. And I think we got one last
Just came in.
super chat that just came in. Actually,
Yeah.
Insane hippie.
from
insane.
no, I didn't get this one, Mexican Iron Man either. 4DX is the only way to go. I wish all all action
Yeah.
superhero movies.
A
This way.
man of great taste, right there.
He likes a
And-
vibrating seat, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike,
More
for that
than
$5.
I don't usually taste other people, Brian,
If
but
you
I'll take your
continue
word
to
for it.
super chat, it can't end the show.
$5 from insane hippie insane warrior nun show does not deserve more seasons. It does not follow the lore of what it is based on and has unneeded race swaps. I have heard that many times about warrior nun.
There's
Wait a minute.
lore
Thank
behind
you.
warrior nuns.
Is the warrior nun a dude?
No, it's a chick, and
Oh,
it's based
all
on
right.
a comic book that's actually pretty good.
Oh.
That being said, guys, thank you for the super chats. Let's get out of here. Thank you again, everybody, and we're leaving now.
Remember,
Adios,
it's the one that
nerds.
says end broadcast.